We're live.
Oh, this is
That's
streaming
how
live
easy it
too.
is. This is streaming live. Yeah, to YouTube, Facebook, Twitch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's
I
I
think
mean, it's just so crazy just what we used to have to go through. Like
yeah.
is this the show or is this the show starting or are we going to start the show?
We can we'll start the show. I'll start the
Start
show.
the show. Okay.
Okay.
Oh man.
Hello and welcome to episode number 1014 of the Player One podcast for Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. I'm your host, Chris Johnston. With me from the great state of Massachusetts, the host of Back in My Play and the owner and trainer at Allied Strength, Mr. Kevin Larrabee.
Oh my God, like what has happened? I just can't believe it's been, I think we were talking right before the show, maybe 5 or 6 years since I recorded a podcast, whether it be Back in My Play, my fitness podcast stuff. I just kind of disappeared, for lack of a
Yeah,
better term, for 5 years or so. Like you said, to kind of focus on the gym where that kind of needed my focus at the time, and had all my efforts going into that. And thankfully, it's worked out well. It's been coming up on going into the 8th year since I opened that place. So
oh man, all right.
again, like right, time kind of flies, but where you and
Yeah.
I, this is how long it's been. Put it into some context. So we used to, again, from day one, when I did my fitness podcast back in '05, we recorded on Skype. You had to go through all these hoops to record things using audio hijack, all these different tools to make sure audio was routing in the right places. You lined up audio right, the volumes are the right way.
Yep.
Skype is now not even in existence anymore. That's how
Right.
long it's been. Like even the last podcast I recorded, the last episode of Back in My Play, we did it on Skype because
Oh my
that's
God.
just how we did it. And like I know you guys were using Google Hangouts and stuff like that. That doesn't
Yeah.
exist anymore. And
No.
we had Zoom, and that was all the COVID stuff. Like Zoom kind of blew up, and now you just sent me a link and we're recording automatically.
I know. Right. Like what a difference a couple of years makes, right? The last time you were on this show was episode, I looked it up, 670.
Oh wow. So
In
yeah,
September of 2019, so pre-pandemic even.
Oh my God, it's been 7 years.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
6.5 at the very least.
my God. And again, I will say it was like, again, so when I went and did the gym, so I also got off of social media. So I kind of like, I think like a lot of folks, like, with what was going on in the world at the time, it's just like the social media stuff isn't helping me. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to get rid of that stuff. And, one of the unfortunate side effects was like, I really kept in contact with a lot of this community through Twitter. And, when that changed hands and stuff like that, I was just like, I don't want to use this anymore. And eventually like Blue Sky came around, and I used that like for a little bit, but I'm like, man, but then I'm still seeing like the same stuff that's bumming me out every day. I just kind of can't do that. So I can't, well, basically, yeah, I'm back on Blue Sky now. I don't know how long I'll be on there for, but it was really cool when we kind of talked about doing this. Awesome feedback. I really appreciate it. Couldn't even believe people remembered either Back in My Play or me being on this show. So
of course. Hey, Back in My Play is still in my podcast client. I still have
works.
the subscription up.
Still paying for it.
It has the little moon icon next to it, meaning that you haven't done an episode in a while, but it's still there.
Yeah, I'm
and
on
you did
Overcast.
132 episodes of Back in My Play.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it, the reason why I'm still paying for it, like I use Libsyn, which a lot of people have used since like '04 to host podcasts and stuff like that. It's because it still gets a lot of downloads. It's still because people, I still have Google alerts for Back in My Play, so like I still get an email whenever we have, it pops up in forums and stuff like that. And still, whenever people bring up like, oh, like what are good video game podcasts? Like I just got into podcasting, or I'm into retro stuff right now. What are good stuff to listen to? Back in My Play still pops up because one of the best parts about retro game shows is that they are timeless. Like you're talking about stuff that was already 20 years old when we recorded it 10 years ago. So there still is like a good reason to go back and listen to, if you want to learn about whether it be even stuff back then, like talking about frame meisters, like talking about the early days of like upscaling and things like that, and how to just
Yeah.
get these games looking good on current televisions.
Yeah.
That's still cool, but it's really about going back and listening to, oh, I just discovered this system or this game. I want to go back and hear, them talk about Castlevania Bloodlines because I just played through it. That's what that show was for in the first place, is to let
Hmm.
people hang out with people that are doing the same things that they're into, or the games that
Yeah.
they're playing.
Yeah. And now I feel like in the last couple of years, retro gaming has really come into its own. We have, the analog hardware. We have, SNK making a new Neo Geo
Yeah,
this
that's cool.
year. Like we have a lot of ways to play retro games in their close to their original form, but on modern hardware. And that's a lot different from when you recorded the last episodes of
Yeah.
Back in My Play, right?
Yep. But I mean, we had, again, it was all about original hardware back then. It was all
Yeah.
about not just the original hardware, but all right, how do we RGB mod this hardware to make sure it looks good on our, again, like on our current displays?
Yeah.
And even it was about the chase, about going and finding those games, because it's a lot better now where these, companies, these publishers and developers are actually going back through their back catalog, and they are doing a better job thanks to the companies like Digital Eclipse. Like they're putting these packages together to allow you to go back and play these games again. And it's even cool to see things like them just re-releasing these games on Nintendo Switch like as
Mhm.
physical releases to make sure it is preserved in some way, like those Turok collections. Even Konami, like we always kind of give Konami junk, but just a couple days ago I was going back and playing through those Castlevania collections on Steam and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
it's a great thing to see that these games are getting new life. It's unfortunately not in every, developer and publisher is getting the job done. Like I still think, I wish Nintendo did a better job on that stuff specifically, but
True.
at least for the most part, it seems like if you want to get access to this stuff, it's easier than ever, whether you're
Mm.
going to do it a legit way, which is how we would all like to do it. I'd be more than happy to give you $60 to get this compilation of games, or $40 or whatever.
Mm.
But at least if you can't do it, thanks to, these great pieces of hardware where you can even just throw in an SD card into these awesome new pieces of hardware. Things like the, oh geez, I'm blanking on the name, but the Mister is a
Yeah.
great tool to do all this stuff. Where about getting that old hardware and the original carts and all that stuff, original discs, is because you wanted it to play it as it was meant to be played. But now, at least, thankfully, we do have other options. Although, unfortunately, even that is getting more expensive again,
That's true. It's
like everything
unfortunate.
else.
Gaming is getting even more expensive. It wasn't cheap to begin with,
No,
and now it's kind of even more ridiculous. But hey, let's roll back a little bit. I want to ask you,
sure.
how have you been, man?
You know, again, it's a couple of weird things. Again, like we talked about the gym stuff. I'm playing
Yeah.
kind of more games than ever, but again, it's just differently, right? Like we all do as we get older. Where,
Yeah.
right now, or just in January, I turned 40. So again, that's like a milestone where you're just like, oh my god, I'm 40. So you have different demands in your life, right?
Yeah.
Right now,
I
it's
like how you're like, oh man, I'm turning 40. I'm like turning 49 in a month.
But
So
but it's really nothing, right? It is all relative, and I think
all
there is
relative.
something to the case of where, you know, 40, 30 years ago is a lot different than 40 today, right?
That's true. Yeah.
And again, I think
Because
it's just
you're 40 now. That's why you're
I know you have to say that, you have to say that.
yeah.
But really, for better or worse, and that's kind of like one of the reasons why I tried to like tip my toe back into like doing the social media stuff is, this is a hard thing to go down. But again, I opened this gym business by myself. I expanded 2 years ago, so I tripled the space that I was in originally.
Mm.
The business is doing great, but when you run a business by yourself, it takes up pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And
I would
again, it's
imagine.
right, and it's a tough thing when you're spending $4,000 a month on rent. If you're not working, you feel like you're always losing money. So,
Yeah.
you make some sacrifices to get things up to speed to a certain bit. Like I haven't been to Japan in like 8 years, and I used to go there twice a year. I really miss Japan. And
Mm,
just even doing little things like talking with Chris Kanigi, who we used to go and meet up and go to Go Curry because he's up in Maine. He
mm.
used to work for 8-4 and doing localization and stuff like that. Like even stuff like that, like, man, I got to reach out to him. I got to make sure, just kind of getting back to making sure that you're also not just working to live, but you're also living your life in general, which is something I'm trying to work on, that whole work-life balance thing as we go forward.
Yeah, that's true. And that's a good reminder for everybody, I
Yeah.
think.
I mean, it could all be over tomorrow,
Yeah,
guys. Like we could get hit by an
that's true.
asteroid tomorrow, right? And you got to make sure that, again, live within your means and do all that stuff. But at
Yeah,
the end of the day, like you just got to make sure that, you always hear those stories like when people are on their deathbed, the last thing that they're saying is, "I wish I worked more." Right? It's
right.
usually, "I wish I spent more time with my family. I wish I, said yes more often to going out." But again, with the gym thing, it's a little bit weird because I have to be up at 4:30 pretty much every morning, especially in the summer. So it makes it a little bit more challenging to, you know, stay out and go out to events and things like that. Because if you're going to be up at 4:30, you got to make sure you're in bed. Otherwise, you're not going to
Mm,
be delivering a really good product from a coaching standpoint the next day.
that's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Well, since the last time we talked, Phil has left the podcast. So,
I saw that. What's going on, man? Where is everyone? I
well,
mean,
like you're
usually there's like
saying,
three
he
people
wants to
on this
spend more
call.
time with his family on Sundays.
Oh,
So
come on.
that's how that happened. But then Greg, of course, he's got 3 kids
Of course, yeah.
and they're all involved in sports.
Yep.
And so he is off at a volleyball tournament.
Volleyball, hockey, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
My man, again, like this is the guy, now that I'm in a Formula One, he's the guy like, man, Greg, we can now connect on that stuff too. Like it's
there you go.
again,
Yeah.
a challenge with obviously like even doing this stuff back then is, like I said, I got to be up at 4:30. I know you guys like record at 9 o'clock at night sometimes on the East Coast. Like that's
Yeah, we do.
just not something I can't be up till like midnight and then have to be up 4.5 hours later. It's just not doable.
I
But
know that would be not doable. Which is
anytime
why
you
one of the first things I said to you when I was like, "Hey, would you like to be on the show this week?" It's like we can record anytime.
oh man, again, Greg, just like take Sundays off to do podcasts, do all
I
your,
yeah.
generation stuff. So like, but again, I'm really pumped. I still follow you guys again. Like I was talking with like John Riccardi, because again, I'm on Blue Sky. So now I can reply to stuff because I just have been listening to you guys for like 10 years. So, or for the last 6 years. And again, like now, I mean, you guys have been doing this for 20 years now. I'm pumped to
Yeah.
see you continuing your career. Like again, like this is the one game that all my only feedback for Enhance is, come on, put Lumines back on sale on Steam. I'm waiting for that to hit back on Steam. I have a very hard rule on games being on sale on Steam these days. But it's really cool to see that you guys have continued this for so long, and it is like a
Yeah.
big part of so many. I know people are watching this right now. It's a big part of just our lives. Like you've been
Mm,
in one way or another in my life for 20 years, uh, which
yeah.
which is nuts. Like think about that stuff. Like think about I one of my clients. It's a weird thing. Like one of my clients is into games, and I was telling him like, oh, because he listens to your show, he listens to a bunch of podcasts, like Jeff Gerstmann, all this stuff, and he was kind of like shocked where I was telling him like, oh yeah, when I was out in Japan, I did a couple episodes of like 8-4 plays. Like what? It's like he listened to those other shows and he didn't realize his strength coach was on a video game podcast in Japan, but like 8 years
That's
ago,
amazing.
talking about just the most, random stuff, or even, doing this show, again, it's like one of those things where you never know how you can like weave this stuff throughout your life. But
It's true.
yeah. And again, this is one of the best part about this whole hobby, right? It's about, playing the games and then connecting with the people that are also interested in that stuff. So that's something that I've really missed about doing this show and doing back in my play and stuff, is just having that connection. So it's cool to reconnect.
So I'm sure you get this question a lot, but are you
Nobody
gonna do
asked me
more of
questions
that?
about any of this stuff. I haven't talked to anybody in 6 years.
Are you gonna ever come back and do more episodes of Back in My Play?
I might have to look and see what this thing is. If this thing makes it that easy,
Yeah.
I could see it happening. Again, I still own the domain. I'm still hosting all those episodes. One of my projects that I meant to get into during the winter was to throw all this stuff on archive.org just in case, because
That's a good
again,
idea.
you look on Libsyn and stuff like that, and there's still again, like, so John was asking a question, like, I'm sure people love that Zelda 2 episode. That episode still gets like 100 downloads a month. Again, and there are episodes that are still getting more and more downloads. Like, we still probably get like 50,000 downloads a year for those episodes on Libsyn. So at least I know there's still people subscribe to it theoretically. So, another big part of it is, I think I scratched the itch that I wanted to with that project. I started back in my play because I felt like there could have been more enthusiasm to the retro gaming stuff. I thought, like, there's good to have different voices in there. I thought I had something to say, and I thought there were other people, like, the Kurt Coladas of the world, you guys, who had such a deep, vast knowledge of this stuff that weren't on like the big retro shows. And because a lot of that stuff was like done in person at the time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to hear from you guys. I wanted to hear from Ryan Payton's. I want to hear from Mike Micah's. I wanted to hear from people that I just wasn't hearing from on these topics. Like, every time like A4 Play or you guys talk about retro stuff, that's like my favorite part of those episodes still, because you guys do have that deep background in that stuff, and you have the context as well. Whether it be talking, again, even to guys that are working in the industry still, like Mike Micah doing the work to make sure that these games have another life. I think that is really important. And to be honest, I don't know, like it would take some time, because I think one of the, this better than anybody, because again, you've gone through the hardest aspects of putting podcasts together. Is it doesn't take just the time, like, we're going to take 2 hours to record this stuff. It's 2 hours to record this stuff. It's to get all the pieces of audio together. It's to get some music. It's to make sure we have all these pieces together. Does it sound good? Okay. Yeah. Edit all those pieces together. Cut out as many ums as you can. Like, well, I don't know.
Oh, I don't do that anymore.
But I remember, what was, again, when I was towards the end, there's a, one of the great Apple, our Mac guys made a great app for the iPad for editing podcasts. What was that called? Frame? I know. I don't know if you're using it, but he made a great app that allowed you to really edit really seamlessly, level everything out, and cut out any dead audio and stuff like that. That worked out really well.
Ferrite is what I use.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what it is.
On the iPad. That's what's editing this show. The audio version of this show is edited on Ferrite on an iPad.
Great, that still exists. Yeah, and that's a great piece of software.
It is, yeah.
But again, it's like, it's one of those things where, I don't know, would people want it? Like, maybe if like people, if there was like demand for it, if I could get some of the old kind of like crew, like if I could get you guys and stuff, and like, again, I still don't hear from Ryan Payton a lot. Like, again, I'd love to hear, more from him. I'm really happy, DF Retro is a fantastic show. People really need to listen to.
They're doing that.
Yeah, John, and if you're looking for something like Back in My Play, one of the things that gives me comfort to not have to bring it back is John, because you can hear it when he talks about this stuff. He's smiling the whole time. He has that same sort of enthusiasm that I had making those old episodes. And that's why I loved connecting with him. Like, I did so many episodes with him as well, because again, it's one of those things where he has that deep background, and he has also the technical knowledge as well that goes along with it, which is sometimes a little bit too much for me. Like, again, sometimes watching the DF stuff, like, I love the information, but man, like, sometimes I can't tell the difference between 60 and 120 frames per second. But for the retro stuff, he has that great context for it. And the crew that he has is really, really good. And like, I've been listening to, like, I was washing my car yesterday, listening to, did an episode on like games that kind of, games that set the Sega Genesis generation, or games that really, made the Sega Genesis what it was in the Mega Drive. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what I would have said. So, okay, maybe that's okay. Like, and, if it was one of those things where like, man, guys, how did you miss this? How'd you miss this? How'd you miss this? like the fact that, Audie brings up Mega Turk, and which is like one of, like, when I got into back in my play and doing retro stuff, going through the old catalog, like Mega Turk, and was like one of those standout games. When I heard him talk about that, I'm like, that's the game I would have said. So maybe it's okay if John just, carries the torch on that stuff. And
Hmm.
I did connect with, because again, I showed back up on Blue Sky. Or actually, I emailed him a couple weeks ago. There was some stuff going on with DF, and I was just like, hey man, like, I just think you
Oh
do an
yeah.
awesome job. I, haven't talked to you in a long time, but if you ever need to like chat or you need anything, you just let me know, because I'm just so grateful for all the time that you spent doing back in my play. It was some of my favorite times, is hanging out with you and chatting. Like, we even did a bunch of episodes that had no game context. Like, I just be like,
Right.
John, I got to record an episode this week in 30 minutes. Are you free? And he would be like, yeah. So we just get on and we just talk about whatever he was playing around with, play with, talk about PVMs, or again, upscalers and things like that, or just random games we were playing. And he does a really good job with that stuff. So again, that gives me some, sense of maybe I don't need to do it. And we did hit on a lot of the games that I wanted to hit on
Hmm.
already. So maybe it's okay to just leave that as like a project there. And he and I did talk about, like, if he needs to fill a seat sometime, I'm more than happy to jump on there if it makes sense for them.
There you go. And of course, it would be early because he's in Europe,
Germany,
right? So
right? Yeah, I think he's somewhere in Germany. So again, like
yeah,
that's hey, I'm up at 4:30 in the morning, John. Even on the weekends, like I was up at 5 a.m. today. So if you want to record at 5 a.m. on a Sunday, I'll be there.
there you go. Yeah, John Linneman, Digital Foundry, just continues to be a great channel. I subscribe to all their stuff, and even if it's
Absolutely.
like way technical and over my head, I love what they do as well. Should we talk about some video game news, Kevin?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, as we record this, we're recording this on Sunday, but Valve has announced that they're releasing their Steam controller. It's going to be available for pre-order starting tomorrow, May 4th, just in time for Star Wars Day. It's going to be 99 US dollars, and pre-orders start Monday, May 4th. So I know I am very excited about this, since they announced in November that they were doing hardware, and they announced the Steam controller, the Steam frame, and the Steam machine. I have been hyped for all three of those pretty much, but definitely the controller and the Steam machine. So I will be attempting to pre-order one of these tomorrow. But where do you stand on the Steam controller, Kev?
Like you, I'm very much on board with everything that Steam is doing from a hardware perspective. Definitely was in on the ground floor when they had the Steam Deck come out. Like, remember, we used to have to, I think you had to wait like 6 months to get you had to pre-order your Steam Deck, and it went through different
Yeah.
rounds of ordering and stuff like that. And now you just you can't get them anyways. But
Wow.
I think they do a really good job. And we talked about, like, and we'll talk about more later. I've very much gone into the Steam ecosystem kind of all in. More often than not, when I'm going to buy stuff, it's going to be through Steam or good old games. Like, I'm going to be playing on the PC or my Steam Deck or Legion Go. And I really do like the controller. And like you, I would love to get one. If I don't, it's not the end of the world, because there are so many other great controllers out there right now. Like, I don't have
It's
it right
true.
next to me, but like the latest round of 8-bit Do controllers are just fantastic for 50-60 bucks.
Hmm.
And I have a couple of those, one for my Switch 2 and one for my PC and Xbox stuff. But the Steam controller at $99 seems like a really solid deal, especially if you are going to be playing a lot on the PC, because, like, and I'm just shocked that people watching the video right now, CJ is able to have videos come into this just like seamlessly. Like, he just had it show up like we're doing a real show. But
Right.
but this again, this piece of hardware, having those track pads is really, really valuable, because I know one of the biggest hurdles for a lot of people to have a piece of like a Steam machine or a PC in the living room is right there. It's having those kind of touch pads, because it is kind of hard to move around the mouse cursor with thumbsticks. But
Yep.
again, $99, really solid deal. I know some people complain about that stuff, but again, if you need it for that specific purpose, it really checks off the boxes. And again, if you don't want it, you don't have to buy it.
That's right. Yeah, I'm excited about a couple things with this controller. the fact that it senses that your hands are like on the controller or
Very
not, and you
cool.
can assign a button to like removing your hand from the controller, like that is
It's
so
crazy.
cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's been a little while since we've seen real innovation in controllers, and maybe this is going to be an innovation, maybe not. Maybe it'll uh be copied down the line, maybe not. But the fact that the touchpads are exactly what you get from playing on the Steam Deck, I love those things. And the fact that they're doing capacitive sticks, they're doing the grip sensing, they have the charging puck that is cool.
Very
Like
cool.
I feel like this is a great evolution of controlling games on the PC for sure. I have my Steam Deck hooked up to my TV, and occasionally we'll play on the television using the Steam Deck. So this is perfect for somebody like me, where now I can, instead of using an Xbox controller, I can use a controller that has the trackpads and has everything that the Steam Deck has on a television. I love it.
Yeah, and I think another big part of this is when you look at that controller and what they're trying to do from a uh, the customization, especially on the software side of things.
Mm,
If you haven't watched the video, or if you haven't used the Steam Deck, or you're not playing games on Steam, and again, even with third-party controllers like the 8BitDo controllers, or even an Xbox controller, or Dual Sense 5, you can inc- you have incredible levels of customization,
yep.
in a lot of the cool things that they're doing on Steam now as well is, they're auto sensing what controller you have hooked up. The only thing I wish you could do on this, and what I love about one of my 8BitDo controllers, I have, let me just grab it.
Okay.
So I have the 8BitDo controller. It's the Pro 2, and it's the one that's kind of like mostly made for the Switch 2.
Okay.
And this is a couple iterations that they've done of this, but my favorite thing about this is that you can, with magnets, you can actually pull the buttons off and you can move the buttons. So you can make it so it is an Xbox setup with, X where it would be in the middle left, or you can, or excuse me, you can switch up the B and the A buttons. So you
Yeah.
can set up so you can use it as, a Switch 2 controller and just go through the toggle on the back. And then it takes 2 seconds to swap the buttons out so you can move the buttons around. That's the only thing that I wish this had. But again, you're probably not going to be syncing this up with your Switch 2 anyways. That's the only thing I would kind of want out of it. But again, seems like from the reviews and things like that, the hands-on that people have had, it seems to have really followed through with everything that they promised, what they wanted to do with that controller. Again, the big challenge is going to be supply. And if they can meet
Yep.
that demand, which I'm worried that they're probably going to be gone in 5-10 minutes, maybe at the most.
Yeah, I'm thinking this sells very quickly, even at $100, which is not cheap for a controller.
Yeah,
I think this will do very well.
for sure.
Yeah, and I've watched the videos from Digital Foundry and Nerd Nest and Retro Game Core on the Steam controller, and I just get more and more excited about ordering it every time I watch some
I mean,
impression.
and it seems like, again, from my standpoint, it looks like the controller that I would want to make if I was like someone was like saying, "What would you want out of a controller?" Again, especially that someone that's playing a lot on PC these days.
Yeah,
I don't know what else I would ask from this, especially for something that's going to be under $100. Again, being able to have swappable triggers, I mean, thumbsticks and stuff like that. Again, there's controllers that are $200 and $300 if you really want to do that.
it's true. Very cool stuff. I hope it's not sold out. I've already added credit to my Steam wallet. I'm ready to go. Like, I don't want any problems tomorrow. So we'll see if I'm able to order it. Okay, I see that you added a story here on the outline. So we're gonna go into this. So you gonna tell us what this is, Kevin?
Yeah, no, this is again interesting. Again, now again, this is where my interests have shifted more, and I think a lot of folks that play on PC, and again, we'll talk about this more. But I've really, for about the last year and a half, all my PC gaming has been on Linux. I haven't used Windows ever since I've gone to going more and more into this stuff. I've been doing the whole Linux thing, and one of the things that goes along with that is kind of like you want to support the systems that feel like are consumer friendly, right? That's always been, if anyone listened to me on previous episodes, was always one of my big things with Nintendo is they were not necessarily as consumer friendly, especially with digital purchases as I would have liked. Because I would like to buy things digitally now. Like I don't want to have a bunch of stuff, go watch episodes from 8 years ago or 10 years ago we were recording. I had a big wall of games behind me. I really don't anymore. What I want to just make sure that when I spend this, money on these digital purchases, that at least since I'm the person that's trying to do it the right way, I'm not getting screwed by having to go through extra hoops. Or Denuvo has been a very popular DRM that you've seen in a lot of PC games. And it's something that was even a really big story when Resident Evil 9 came out, where Denuvo, because of this DRM that's running in the background to make sure that you haven't stolen this game, even though you purchased it legally, actually really can hinder the performance of the game. Like they saw running tests when they actually cracked it and got through Denuvo on Resident Evil 9, it actually gave you like a 20 to 25% bump in performance. Like it is that big of an impact where, again, we talk about, budgets being a little bit tighter these days. If you're not running a 5090 in that PC, that 20 to 25% could be a really big difference.
Yeah, it could
And
be.
basically, Denuvo has been completely cracked now. Like hackers have been able to get by it. And now, since it is no longer a tool that these publishers can use to make sure that their games are not being pirated, instead of just saying, okay, well, let's look at a different solution down the road. What they're doing is now they're going to be putting in 14-day checks on specific games, specifically games that are a little bit closer to release. And this is, again, one of those things where, okay, well, I don't understand. These are some games like talk about like NBA 2K. Like this game is now, 7 months old. Why are you going to be making the experience of those people that paid for the game worse? And it's just, again, one of those things where you see from these publishers where it just makes it less likely for me to want to buy a 2K game. I try not to be that guy. It's like, oh, well, I'm never going to buy a so-and-so game because they did this one thing, because I understand they got a business, they got to protect their business and things like that.
Yep.
But again, this is just stuff that we kind of have to keep our eye on, because there was a smaller story and it was a little bit misconstrued, but with Sony having online checks for digital purchases as well, and it was ended up being a little bit of a misunderstanding. But that stuff, like, again, when you see these companies try to tighten things up on the consumers more and more and more, just seeing what they can get away with, it's just something that I think we need to keep an eye on, because we want to make sure that these guys are being honest as well. Otherwise, again, the best thing to do would be to pirate this game or those games, because you have better performance and you don't have to worry about that phone home every 14 days as well, where, I'm an adult, I have a job, I want to purchase these games, I like to have them on Steam. Just make it so I'm not getting hurt in the process.
Well, I mean, the unfortunate thing is that hackers exist, and they're, a few bad actors are the reason why we can't have good things.
For sure. I mean, again, like, I don't know that world anymore. Like, they're long are the days where I was back in college and you're getting like TV shows the next day on like the Pirate Bay or something like that. But I don't know, like, is it really that persistent? Like the people pirating games these days? I just assumed, again, it was one of those things that, especially with digital stuff, a lot of these services, Xbox, PlayStation, even Nintendo, has caught up to the point where the resistance to go through that process to get that game for free is really not worth it, when they have such great sales on digital games, and it's just so easy to preload games before games come out. I just kind of figured maybe it wasn't as persistent, but I guess it's still enough where they have to use things like Denuvo for DRM.
It's always going to be persistent. There are always those broke college kids. We're not those kids anymore. But
man,
they
crazy.
exist still.
Well, you're right. They're definitely, again, I saw a story a couple of weeks ago about how, now that all this is from movies and TV, all these streaming services, everyone's charging $15 a month now, $22 a month. And, it's been a boom for piracy of movies and TV shows. And it's now easier than ever, where, again, back in the day, like you had to at least have some computer knowledge to use BitTorrent and things like that.
Right.
Like your mom's not going to be able to figure out how to do it. But when you can just type in a search bar, like, I want to watch this TV show that's on Netflix and I don't have Netflix, and there's a link to do it. Again, that's stuff that, again, these companies, you got to kind of meet the consumer halfway. Otherwise, they're going to go back to those bad practices again, like make it so, and you shouldn't do things illegal. Like, again, I have a job, I have money where I'm happy to buy this stuff. I like buying digital things because I like having that library,
And it's also supporting the creators that are doing it. I
And
enjoy
there's that too.
that part of it as well,
There's
right?
that too. And again, and I'm all for, like, the one thing I'm really big into physical now, which is I have a NAS over there. So I have like a massive library of Blu-ray movies and CDs. It's like the two things that I have a massive library of because I really love music. The one thing that you guys missed in my departure is I have like 30 iPods. Like I got really into modding iPods and refurbishing them with like flash storage and new batteries and stuff like that because I'm 40 now, so I'm getting nostalgic for stuff that I had when I was younger. So I'm like, man,
I still love it how you're saying I'm 40 now, as if
40.
that's old and decrepit, and we should just like lock you up in
I know
assisted living or something.
Get the nursing home ready. But again, it's like it is one of those things. What is like that midlife crisis? We're like, man, yeah, it was great back in the day. I do see those pictures online of a bunch of kids like hanging out and playing N64, and like nobody does that anymore. Or just I love these people that have these retro rooms with like a DVD player hooked up to a CRT. I think that's really cool because again, what happens is a lot of times people get, this is something I'll talk about more later, is they have that just with so much selection, it becomes paralyzing. And it's nice to just have fewer things to pick from. And that way you can focus on actually watching something, listening to something, playing something versus scrolling and scrolling and scrolling on Spotify or Netflix. And then you're like, oh, well, actually, I don't have any more time to listen to something or watch something. I'll just go back to, scrolling on the internet and being worried about what's happening in the world.
Right. Well, last week we got a teaser trailer for the new Resident Evil movie. This is going to be from director Zach Kreger. And this is just a teaser, but it looks pretty different from the previous Resident Evil movies that we have gotten before. And Zach Kreger, I believe he directed Weapons, which is a very well-loved horror movie. So yeah, interested in seeing the movie after watching this trailer.
I mean, I didn't see Mila Jovovich. Where's she? Is she like? Is this just a teaser trailer?
She's nowhere to be found in
What?
this. Nowhere to be found.
I thought
No
Paul
Mila
W.S.
Jovovich.
Anderson had a lock on all future Resident Evil projects, and I hope they're doing okay because again,
well, haven't they done like
duo.
how many of those movies have they done? Like 6?
They did 7. I think they did 7
God.
of the Resident Evil series. Of course, don't forget Monster Hunter. I mean,
oh wait, are we
favorite.
counting that as also a Resident Evil movie?
Well, it's just it's a collab. It's a husband-wife collab between Mila and Paul. And I am really excited. They're re-releasing again. I've really got into like Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray and stuff like that. I am really pumped that they are going to be coming out with a new cut or new release of the original Mortal Kombat from '95 with a director's commentary from Paul, because his director's commentaries are fantastic. Watching those old Resident Evil movies, if you have them on Blu-ray, some of the best audio commentaries, just like hilarious. They're hammered. And oh my God, Greg Ford's in the chat. Oh, again, another person I would have loved to have on back in my play back in the day. But this looks awesome. I'm shocked because I actually like those old Resident Evil movies. Again, I own them all. I know they're bad, but they're like really fun bad, and they're like 90 minutes in and out. But the fact that I heard about this movie months ago, I'm like, man, it sounds like it's like a good director making this movie. I don't like good movies generally. As you remember, I love the Fast and Furious movies. I like dumb action and stuff like that. Like good suspenseful horror movies, not really my thing. But it seems
Really?
like,
Okay.
well, again, like it's, I'll watch like Evil Dead 2 versus Evil Dead. I'd rather watch, the one where he goes back to medieval times. I'd rather watch.
Yeah, Army of Darkness. Yes.
Army of Darkness, again, another 4K Blu-ray I love. I'd rather watch that than the original. I mean, the original is probably better, and there's better horror movies, but I just love like the craziness of it. But
I forget,
again,
were you the person who doesn't want to watch movies made before
100%. 1985, before I was born, I refused to watch movies that were made before I was born because, again, partially they look terrible for the most part, except from
That's
like,
true.
for example, Alien, again, if you have, again, 4K Blu-ray player, fantastic film
Mhm.
in 4K. That still holds up incredibly well. There's a couple movies like Ghostbusters and stuff like that, but I will say I was shocked about how excited I was after seeing this trailer for this movie. Even though, again, when I heard about it, I'm like, I after just playing through Resident Evil 9, I want to see, Claire Redfield. I want to see, Chris. I want to see all these, Leon. I want to see these characters that I've kind of known for 30 years, but it
Maybe we're
seems
not going
like
to get. I don't know. This is a
I
new.
know.
We meet a new character in this teaser trailer that isn't one of the beloved characters.
Yeah, it's like McLovin from he kind of looks like McLovin from Superbad a little bit. Um,
What
you
is
know,
McLovin up to
He's at the
nowadays?
Celtics games. He goes to a lot of Boston Celtics games that
Oh,
just
really?
got knocked out of the playoffs. Yeah, he must be like a Boston guy. He's at a lot of Boston
Oh.
Celtics games.
So, by the way, like you said, you didn't want to watch movies from before you were born. I
Yeah.
just this weekend. So my daughter is 14
Mhm.
now, and we watched The Terminator and
Oh,
Terminator 2
let's go.
this past
Yeah,
weekend. And first of all, both of those movies hold up quite well.
totally.
And I mean they're good, except for some of the practical effects still look cheesy. But when you watch them
Two
like in
stuff.
4K,
Yeah.
and I believe they're using AI upscaling now,
Yes, James did
which
do that.
watching the original Terminator movie in 4K, whatever they did AI wise, it looks like a modern movie. I was
Yeah.
like surprised at the clarity of some of the background details. Yeah. And yes, AI probably did a lot of that stuff, but
Honestly, people really so again, like, you get into the 4K Blu-ray stuff, and there are obviously people that are really crazy about film grain and stuff like that. I don't like film grain. Like, I like a clear looking picture, right? I have
yeah,
I want to be able to I understand you want to maintain the original print and all that stuff, but they are James Cameron's movies. If he wants to do that stuff, it's his right to do it. And
yeah,
I think the re-releases of, maybe it was a couple years ago, The Abyss and True Lies, which again have movies that you couldn't watch anything better than DVD release. I think the best version of the special edition for The Abyss was the Laserdisc.
Laserdisc.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. And that's one of my favorite. That's like a childhood staple for me, is The Abyss. And to be able to get that on 4K Blu-ray, even with the upscaling, I think it looks awesome.
hmm,
I really don't mind it. Again, going back to mention the practical effects, the big problem I have with Terminator 2 is specifically in the mall scene when the two Terminators, Arnold and the
Robert
T1000 meet.
Patrick.
Thank
Yeah,
you. I know Robert Patrick, a great man. When he initially gets shot, he has like those silver, they look like aluminum foil, like cones that are sticking up, like pinned to his chest. Like,
yeah,
that stuff doesn't look super good.
that's
But
true.
again, like, that's like one of those things where, man, like, how did I never notice that? But again, it's maybe if you were watching on the big screen, but if you're watching it at home, and again, this is one of the things John was talking about on DF Retro. They were talking about on their PS2 episode, which is like their first episode. It's like 3 hours long. I've been
It
saving
is a
these
great
episodes
one.
out.
Yeah.
It's a great episode, but they were talking about the DVD player obviously being a really important part of the PlayStation 2, and that if you actually watch DVDs on a CRT now, like, a lot of the compression and stuff like that in DVDs were compressed to fit on those discs.
Mhm.
You actually don't see it because of the CRT. Like, they did a really good job smoothing that stuff out. Where now, if you watch a DVD, even upscaled on like a 4K TV, that stuff's going to show a lot worse. But I think I think, again, I like some old movies. I love the Terminator movies, even the latest ones. Again, that's one of those soft spots I have. I'll watch Terminator Genesis right now. I like Terminator Genesis, and I know there's some good time travel BS in that movie that I really appreciate. And it's like, it's like Sliders. Like, Sliders, not a good show, but I'll go back and watch it from time to time.
Hey, I'm watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine at the moment,
Ooh,
and the
yeah,
digital version of that, have not cleaned that up at all, and it
no,
looks very fuzzy. But actually, if they had cleaned it up and if it was high def, it might actually look bad because
really.
well, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I can't say for
well,
sure.
It's like,
but
did they
it's
shoot it on
maybe
film or did they shoot it on
hiding
video?
details.
Yeah. I mean, that was the big thing with like Next Generation is like, it holds up so well because they shot it on film.
Yeah,
Where
I'm
maybe
not
to
sure
cut
if they
costs on
shot.
DS9, they might have went to video or something.
Yeah, I don't think they shot DS9 on film, unfortunately. But
I hate to
it
say, but
looks
that's like
bad. But
that's one show I would love to watch. But like you said, I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for them to do an HD version of it.
I don't think
or
they're going
just
to.
It's really sad because that's what everyone says is the best Star Trek.
It is very good. It is
I know.
very, very good. I'm at the end of season 2 now, and it's very good.
I still remember the night that premiered. I was at a sleepover. I would have been in first grade. All right. I was at a sleepover with like 8 kids. Okay. Not my birthday. It was somebody else's birthday. And I was demanding, I was like crying, saying, like, Star Trek Deep Space Nine is starting at 8 o'clock tonight. We all have to watch it. And then instead we had to watch like some crappy Disney movie or something like that. I almost went home. Because again, I was really hyped for that show. That was again the right time with the syndication of Next Generation and stuff. I really hope that, and yes, that's right, a Sliders reference in 2006. I just happen to be rewatching it right now. I own the DVDs.
Yes.
Come on.
Hell yeah.
That's a great show. And hats off to those guys, Jerry O'Connell, and John Rhys Davies. Keep trying to get that show rebooted. There's a lot of potential in that show, but yeah, if you watch season 3, 4, or God forbid 5, it is it's rough. It's real
well
rough.
if you wait long enough, everything's going to get rebooted, right? I mean,
that's the show that you would think would be the easiest show to, like, it is the simplest but kind of best concept, where you literally just go to a world where like the Russians invaded the United States or somebody else won World War II. Like, it is kind of like the Man in the High Castle, but a different, spot every single time. And man, I used to, again, another show that I forced my parents to sign up for the Sci-Fi Channel when it went over to that channel, because I was obsessed with that show. Loved that show so much.
Nice. Well, there's going to be a LEGO Sega Genesis released this summer. We got our first look at it. Comes out June 1st, 2026, and it's one of the less expensive LEGO sets, only $39.99. So I guess even cheaper than the Game Boy set, which I don't know if you picked up the Game Boy, Kevin, or if you do LEGO, but I really enjoyed the Game Boy set, and that was a really fun build. But this Sega Genesis, I don't know about the look of this one.
Are you saying there are not any Sega Genesis fans that were putting together the designs for this? Maybe they are more Nintendo fans over there.
You think that's why this looks so bad?
I think intentionally, because again, it's Lego. They know it's going to sell no matter what. Again, Greg already is like waiting to pre-order this thing and is going to pick one up no matter what.
Possibly.
But again, I think it's unfortunate when, again, there's obviously people that like to pick these things up. It's a cool thing to throw on the shelf. Again, you look at just the controllers, man. Very rough. I thought the Game Boy one was really, really cool looking. Again, they obviously put a lot of thought into that, where with this, again, it's kind of just like, I don't know, guys, maybe you should have gone back to the drawing board, and maybe, like, again, you said it's really inexpensive. Maybe it's just because it could have been bigger. If it was bigger, it might have had more detail and stuff like that, because it's not 1-to-1 size, correct? It's a little bit smaller.
No, it's smaller, and only 479 pieces. So
that's pretty low.
Yeah. I don't know why they did it this way. I mean, they released a little like bonus Sega Genesis controller last year as like a pre-order thing, and that even looked better than the controllers that this comes with. So a little bit strange, but it is only $40, and that's cheap for a Lego set. So maybe that's enough.
Yeah, again, like, I'm just would like to know who put that together and see if they actually grew up with the Sega Genesis or not. If they, again, I feel like if you have more passion for that thing, you probably are going to put more attention to detail into it. But
that's also true.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're done with the news. Maybe we should talk about what we have been playing a little bit.
Let's go.
Yeah. let me bring up Forbidden Solitaire, because we talked about this last week on the show. I was very excited that it was coming out. It came out on Steam. This is basically like a game that is channeling 90s era CD-ROM software, and I think it nails every aspect of some of those early CD games, and it's a really great solitaire game, even without the sort of 1990s CD-ROM full motion video additions that they made to this. But the idea is that there was this game that came out in the 90s called Forbidden Solitaire, and it's very like mysterious. There was a lot of like controversy about its release, that it was too violent, and then there were also some mysterious deaths at the developer. So this game got, I guess, pulled off shelves, and so you find a copy of it and you tell your sister that you found a copy, and she messages you while you're playing it with different things like review scores on it, different news reports about the release, people protesting it, and it's just a really unique little game that harkens back to that old era of some of the first CD-ROM games, including like the very cheesy CG graphics, and it's a great little game. Have you been playing any of this? Have you heard of this?
No, this is a really cool thing to see for the first time. Did it come with any demos on the disc?
I don't think so. So you boot it up, and maybe one will appear. You boot it up and it puts you into this pseudo Windows interface, and with different icons, and you can start up the game from there. No demos though, so you have to like load it up, and you see like the DOS prompts like as everything boots up, and then it does the whole pre-roll of company logos and whatnot, and there's a title screen and all of that good stuff, but no demos. That is maybe kind of a miss there.
No, I love these projects again, especially when it comes to like emulating, going back to like Windows 3.1, Windows 95, and then having, because again, this is one of those things I think is untapped, nostalgia, and also it's one of those cool things that smaller teams can work on and stuff like that. And I do love, kind of the Blair Witch Project like mystery with all this stuff. I think there's, again, a lot of untapped potential looking at these old PC games. Like, I think there would be a cool, even just to do like old, like, why don't we have like a Mech Warrior, like, something like that, cool like that? Because I feel like we get all these like Castlevania, Metroidvania type games and stuff like that, but you don't really get, there's very few and far between these kind of like, again, just seeing like the picture in picture low res video that like you could be watching in Encarta or something like that is very,
it's like a real player video that was
that's it's a dot move. Yeah. If they were smart, it should be .real. That's too bad. Oh, they could have, well, probably can't use that, right? That probably must still be trademarked. I wonder who owns Real Player.
That might be Microsoft. Probably owns it.
Like everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't checked this out, but you definitely piqued my interest because, again, this is one of those great looking pick up and play type games, but also there's some cool little depth in there, which, again, I really am looking forward to like getting more into like card games. Like I missed out on Balatro. Like completely flew by me. And again, it's one of those games that everyone tells me to play. But I think it didn't have enough where this has that little bit extra something that at least has piqued my interest to throw it on my wish list.
Well, especially if you are a fan of Solitaire, I think you'll have fun with this, because it is sort of a standard Solitaire game, but you can buy different power-ups that give you certain effects on your cards, and protects you from attacks, because while you're sort of spelunking in this dungeon, you run into monsters that you then have to fight using Solitaire to attack, and so you'll have different buffs, and there are also different jokers that give you certain effects. So one is a wild card, so you can play any card on top of it, and sometimes you can shuffle everything in your hand, or you can destroy a certain number of cards that are facing up. So there are a lot of different cool plays on standard solitaire gameplay. And this game is probably not going to come to consoles, it sounds like. It is a Steam and Windows only release because apparently the developers coded it in such a language that it would make console porting pretty difficult.
Oh, wow.
But and this uses the Steam Deck touchpads as well for mouse movement, because it is a mouse-driven game. So you're not using a controller or an analog stick for it, and it works wonderfully with the Steam Deck. So I'm looking forward to playing it on the TV with the Steam controller.
Yeah, let me ask you about that. So I've never really gone and done a lot of, docked mode on my Steam Deck or even my Legion Go. Have you found that to be a pretty good experience? Like the last time I did it was probably a year ago, and I still felt like, Steam OS was a little bit behind, but I assume they've made some improvements in the last year.
They have, yeah. I still occasionally will have an issue with the controller, like an Xbox controller syncing as controller 2 instead of controller 1, which messes with things quite a bit.
That would,
but
yeah.
It's a good, I think it's a good experience on the TV, at least until the Steam machine comes out, and then I can just replace docked Steam Deck with that. So
that's the hope.
That is the hope. But yeah, Forbidden Solitaire, great little game, and it's like under $20 on Steam. A great new release.
Very cool.
For sure. I've also been playing Konami Picross. Have you
I would like to be so I am
Picross?
I've been blind of Picross. I've picked up like Picross games over the years, again, on my trips to Japan and stuff like that. And I really need like somebody to sit down and give me a tutorial on how to appreciate Picross, because for me, it's always been like, what is it? Is it Minesweeper? Like, what am I playing here? What am I just never really understood the mechanics of it enough, which I'm sure a lot of people are listening to be like, it is the simplest game you could ever play in your life. But again, it's one of those things that, for whatever reason, I just never got it explained to me really well. And again, especially the game that came out, I mean, the Picross games on Game Boy, I even owned one of them way back in the day. And I just it just sat there in the carrying case.
Right. I mean, I'm kind of the same way with these as you. I'm a sort of latecomer to the Picross games, and if it wasn't for like Phil and Greg encouraging me to continue trying to learn, I don't think I would have gotten into it. But yeah, I'm not going to even try to explain it. But the company Jupiter, you can download demos of all of their games, including, I believe, Konami Picross.
Okay.
And they have a pretty good tutorial in there to kind of teach you how to do it. And I really like turning off the feature that auto-corrects your mistakes as soon as you make them, because that feels too punitive to me to color in a square and then immediately be told, no, that's not what you were supposed to do. But there's no actual like penalty to it. But I feel like if the game's just going to do it for you, that kind of takes the fun out of it.
What are you doing? Yeah.
So I do make a couple tweaks in the options mode. But yeah, this is fun so far. I've gotten maybe 2. I'm on the 3rd page of puzzles in this. It has 150 puzzles. And so far it's mostly been Japan only Konami games. I've had a couple Gradius puzzles so far, but mostly it's been like Goemon games that didn't come out in the US and things like that. So but it does have more than 80 titles. It takes sprites from
That's
those.
crazy.
Yeah,
Kid Dracula too. I just saw, wow.
Kid Dracula's in there, yeah. It has a time attack mode that puts even more pressure on you solving the puzzles.
This could sell me on this game. While you're going through these puzzles, is the music from these games playing in the background?
So they have 10 tracks in the music player. So you can choose to
Oh,
shuffle the tracks so that you get like a little bit of music from Gradius or Castlevania
okay.
or Contra, and or you can pick one particular game. You want to hear Contra only while you're solving puzzles. You can have that. It'll only play one track from Contra, but
I
it's
got you.
there.
Okay. Oh
So
man, that seems like that would have been like an instant sale for me if it's like, all right, well, I'm going to be playing this. I'm hearing the Blades of Steel soundtrack while I'm doing this, or like in Contra music while I'm going through this again. Castlevania 3, one of the best soundtracks of all time. Like that's something that would definitely be a huge selling point. But obviously, it makes sense. They can't have music from 80 different games included in this. Like the rights would
no,
just be insane. I'm sure they still have trouble with all that stuff.
only 10 tracks. And
Man, okay.
they're very short loops too, because I put it on
Ooh,
shuffle in the options. You can have it
really?
shuffle the music instead of just do one game. And it's like one loop of the music and then it's fading out and bringing in other games tracks in.
That's too
So
bad.
yeah, it
Again,
is.
that's like I don't know if you remember, but like music is a big thing for me in these games. It's a thing that allows you to,
Absolutely.
again, like you don't get through certain, especially old games, without the music being great. Because if it's grating and you're hearing the same 30-second loop over and over again, you're just going to shut it off and go to something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the good thing for the Konami Picross is that at least so far I haven't seen a lot of faces. Like the puzzles for these games often are faces from different games. There's an SNK Picross game that is basically like fighting game uh, faces.
That's tough.
So
Yeah.
like, but I want other things than just character faces. But so far, it's been very good. This is maybe my favorite one of these since the Sega Genesis and Master System Picross that they released not too long ago. So
I would love to get hooked on one. Again, like it is well, obviously there are a lot of these Picross games out there. And again, especially
yeah,
on, the Switch and stuff like that. I would love to be able to have them in my library because again, what a great way, especially if you need to, burn 30 minutes and you're waiting
yeah,
for something. That's a great way to do it.
absolutely. Well, those were the only two games I'm gonna talk about today because we want to talk about what you have been playing. We've got like 6 years of
Ooh, a lot of games.
not hearing from Kevin Larrabee on what you've been playing, so we gotta catch up with
Yeah, I
that.
mean, it's well again, like we talked about
Well,
before. I'm gonna oh yeah, go
I
ahead.
wanted to ask you a question. Where are you
Please.
playing nowadays? Because
It's shuffled
that
around a
that can
lot.
be very different.
Yeah.
Are you a console? Are you playing on Switch 2, PS5, Xbox? You said you're
I'm a
on
nomad,
Linux.
man.
Like,
I'm a nomad. So like when I let's for context, during the Switch years, 2017, to the end of the Switch, I was very heavy into the Switch. It checked off a lot of boxes for me, and it had some kick-ass games on it. It's also when I started investing more in the eShop, and because I figured this is the chance for Nintendo to have good backwards compatibility with their next console. Eventually, they ended up doing pretty good with that. I think they checked off most of the boxes, and in some cases, it's even better than regular backwards compatibility. So, hats off to Nintendo for that. But probably the Switch 2 was really weird. So I was one of the folks, like everyone else out there, that was hammering those pre-orders to try to get a Switch 2. Was so pumped to get one, and it's really not been used since I bought it.
really?
I,
Okay.
I liked Mario Kart. I played a little bit of that. Um, it's same kind of complaints a lot of people have. Like it's a little bit the tracks are too wide. Didn't really like the free roaming stuff. I'm hoping I believe in Nintendo. Like I think there could be like a deluxe version of that where they can fix a lot of the things that people had complaints about. It could have just been really coming in hot for those guys. I'm sure they would have
Yeah.
loved to have more time to work on that game. But I waited for the next release, Donkey Kong. Bounced off of that game so fast, really, really
Really?
fast, really hard, really fast
Oh
because I
man.
I found no challenge in that game whatsoever. I felt like I was just wasting time, like doing
How far
like
did you play into it?
2 hours. I
The
really,
challenge, there is challenge to be had in it. I think it's a little further in the game.
I'm not saying I won't go back to it at some point.
Ah,
I have the game, Like again, when I got the Switch 2, I got the Mario Kart, I got Cyberpunk 2077, which again I played like 30 minutes of that, then didn't touch it again, which
Mm,
it has nothing to say against that game. I think it's an incredible port. We'll talk about that stuff later. I think we have a
mm,
question about that. But I was like, I really thought the Switch 2 was going to be the console. I was just going to go all in on that. That's why I wanted one so bad, is because, like, great. Oh man, they have this great upscaling. They got the DLSS stuff. Games look really good on it. If Cyberpunk 2777 looks like this on day one, perfect. I don't need games to look any better than this.
mhm, mhm.
But then, again, this is stories that you guys covered back then, but yeah, the dev kits weren't really out there. The trickle of games really wasn't what I was hoping for. That I haven't really been able to find a lot of games that I wanted to plan it that I hadn't already played on other consoles, or would it be drastically better on either a PlayStation 5 or what I've really got into is, again, probably about a year and a half ago, I really got I really wanted to build a PC.
Hmm.
I built a PC, went to Micro Center, did all that stuff. Recently upgraded it when all the RAM craziness was happening. I did some quick upgrades to make sure I didn't have any chance of missing out on that stuff. But really, what I've been into probably the last year and a half or so has been a combination of the Steam Deck and my Linux desktop, which isn't overly powerful. It's a 9070 XT, so it's like a $600 graphics card. I'm not like, again,
Mm.
I don't have a $2,000 graphics card in there. But for me, and obviously if you're into Linux stuff, the AMD GPUs have better driver support and things like that. It's within the packages, so it's a little bit more friendly to have that hardware. But um, really what solidified it for me was a couple months ago when I on the Switch 2, I got a really cheap copy of Persona 3 Reload.
Hmm.
And I was playing that on the Switch 2, and I really had trouble with it because the handheld really comes into play. Is again, I'm at the gym for like 9 hours. I'm on my feet all day. And even sitting at the computer at the end of the day, I'm cooked. Usually, like what I'm doing is I'm having some dinner, and I might like, hang out with my dog, lay down on my bed, and I want to play some Switch 2. And I can't hold on to it. It hurts. I
Yeah.
can't, no matter what I bought for it. I bought grips. I bought all this. I bought thumbstick thingies. No matter what I did, I hated holding on to it like for more
Hmm.
than 20 minutes. I tried even flipping the kickstand and back. People would recommend that as like a way to even help. I just couldn't do it. And really, but what it was the I had Persona 3 on Switch 2, and then when you dock it, it looks awesome. It runs at 60. It looks beautiful. They did a good software update for that after launch, where they had some struggles at launch. And I really was getting into this game. Like I was playing it a lot. Like I played like 6 hours in a weekend, which for me is a
Oh
lot.
man. Okay.
And I was like, "Ugh." But when I would go to handheld, like it's back down to 30 and it looks bad. Like they
Hmm.
just weren't able to get it up to speed on when it wasn't docked. So I was looking at the Bersetera and on the Persona 3, thread, or the Persona thread, and they're like, well, if you have a Steam Deck, download on a Steam Deck. It runs great. And I was like, okay, I was doing this is another part of this. Like I said, I don't like having a lot of systems. I don't like having a lot of games because I really do like I end up playing nothing because I just have like
Right.
18 different things I could be playing. I play nothing. So I've been
Choice
really
paralysis.
the choice
Yeah.
paralysis thing. So I've really been trying to get down to one or one and a half systems, um,
Hmm.
which for me, again, I was hoping it was going to be the Switch 2. I thought, man, that could be my main system. I saw how Resident Evil 9 looked on that. Like, again, I could be totally happy playing Resident Evil 9 on this thing. Um, so I disconnected my desktop, I disconnected my Steam Deck, and I put it in the corner for a month. I'm like, if I don't use it for a month, I'll be good. I'll get rid of it. I had a PS5 Pro that was mainly used to play with my best friend who's down in Florida because he has a PS5, and it is still a little bit of a struggle to get a lot of games that are friendly cross-play with PC, especially Linux in
It's true.
PS5
Yeah.
because of the anti-cheat stuff. Um, but I put it in the corner, and then again, what actually got me to hook it all up and be solidified in this is Persona 3 Reload, because again, I downloaded the demo on my Steam Deck OLED. It runs beautifully. at a very low TDP, like if you're into that stuff, like at 10 watts, it runs at 60 frames per second and it looks great on that screen. And the fact that it was running twice as good as my Switch 2, I actually replayed the first like 7 hours of that game on the Steam Deck to catch back up. But it's a little bit faster. You can skip through all the cutscenes and stuff like that. It's really fast.
Sure.
But that's like what solidified it for me is like, man, I guess as much as I kind of love still owning physical games on the Switch 2, which is another reason why I wanted it, even with the game key card, I like the idea of being able to, if I don't like this game, I can sell it. That's what I did with Donkey Kong. I bounced off for 2 hours. I sold it on eBay. I got most of my money back. But I think what has really happened is going back and forth between the Switch 2, the PS5 Pro, Linux, the Steam Deck, and all that stuff. What I found was, what do I feel best about using? What do I have the most fun using? And I really do have the most fun bouncing back and forth the Steam ecosystem, because I didn't feel like I was getting nickel and dime with stuff. Even when I didn't have a PS5, I went back to a PS5. You have to sign up for PlayStation Plus to get all your old save games back. I had to do that for a month.
It's true.
I was like, great, no problem. I'll spend $15. You get some good games. I got to play some fun games on there. But then I went to go back up those save games when it was over onto like a memory card, just to like make sure I had it backed up. You can't do it on the PS5 anymore. You can't back up your saves locally anymore, which is like, again, one of those things like, you kind of get it, like, again, hackers, right? Maybe that's an entry for them to be able to, unlock the system and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, again, like the long story short, I feel best about supporting what Steam's doing because I love the idea of the, free open source software ecosystem. I'm very happy with Linux. I've played around with a bunch of different flavors, going from originally Nobara and Pop OS, which are kind of like, really simple things to use, going and doing crazier stuff, going into Arch Linux, which is a little bit tougher, bouncing around to Kashi OS, and then going back to pretty much what is everyone has come down to as the best thing to use, which is Bazzite.
I've heard really good things about that.
It's very friendly. It's very friendly, and it has the big thing is that all of these different distributions have quirks, right? Some of them you're like, I can't find make MKV on, which is like to be able to rip disks on this distribution's database and stuff like that. Or I have to go through extra command line codes to have it see disk drives and stuff like that, weird stuff like that, where for the most part Bazzite has the Bazaar, which is like an app store that has pretty much everything that you'll need for software, and it does a really good job updating it. It doesn't seem to break. It's still pretty leading edge, where Kashi OS is like, Kashi OS, there's a software update every day if you want it. If you want it, there's going to be new drivers. It is on the cutting edge, but sometimes things can break. For example, I was trying to play through Resident Evil 2 and the remake, and there was just a point in the game where it would just hard lock. The AMD drivers would just completely crash no matter what I did, no matter what version of Linux I was using. I could roll back kernels. It still would just hard lock. I would have to literally just reboot the system to even get out of it. It was that messed up. And that's really frustrating. Like, that stuff can still happen. But going back to it a month later, the drivers are updated. It's completely fine now. But again, you're still playing around with, a emulation layer, right? With Proton, where they're doing really great stuff to the point where more often some of the latest games actually run at a higher level of performance on Linux than they do on Windows, because they don't have to deal with all the other Windows crap that's going on in the background. But again, Steam is really great because, again, you got cloud saves. You have the ability to buy games from other stores. I very rarely buy games directly from Steam. That's the one thing I will get credit, like for Christmas. The only thing I ask for, give me Steam credit, because eventually I will use it. But there are so many other key sites where you can buy stuff like Green Man Gaming, Humble Bundle, Fanatical, GOG. Yeah. Well, in GOG, again, it's another thing where you can play all your good old game stuff on there, no problem, through Heroic and Lutris and stuff like that. So I just like the community. Like, I feel like I'm part of something where like people are trying to do the right thing, and you're not that you have to be anti-Windows or anything like that, but Windows ain't doing anything to help me out. Like, I feel like at least this community is there kind of to work together to really make something cool. And you got to give Steam credit for putting a lot of this effort into with Steam OS, where you can just run Steam OS on your desktop if you wanted to. If you have a computer, just install Steam OS. If it's all AMD stuff, I mean, if as long as it's not an NVIDIA GPU, you're probably going to be good to go out of the box. And you can keep it real simple. But yeah, so I've really just gone into find that I've really been happy with those two. And then the new thing is I've gone outside the world of Steam Decks and started playing around with the Legion Go S, which
nice.
this looks like crazy. Like this is like a cheap one where now they are way more expensive. Just in the last couple of weeks, they've almost doubled in price. Like I think this model has a Z1 Extreme processor in it, which is like 25% better than a Steam Deck. Like I got this for $650 at Best Buy, open box, like it was in really good shape, like so it's a good deal. Now that same one's $1,600 at retail, because again, this is partially Lenovo's fault, but it's got 32 gigs of RAM in it. It's got a 1 terabyte SSD. And this is not a better device than the Steam Deck. It's just different. I still have a Steam Deck OLED. But I use this more often than not because it's got an 8-inch screen. And it's got a way higher ceiling. If I know, like, I'm not going to be on a plane for 4 hours, I can use this. I can get like an hour and a half at the max TDP. Like, I think it could go up in handheld. You can go up to 33 watts, I think. Well, obviously in handheld, but you don't even plugged in. You can go to 33 watts, which I believe the Steam Deck, the highest TDP is 15 watts, right? So you're getting a much higher ceiling with that chip, as long as you're willing to pay for it by being plugged in. So you can play bigger games on that thing. And I was shocked at, even though I have an OLED, it's, I think, a 7.4-inch screen. Going from 7.4-inch to 8-inch is massive. I'm 40 years old. I'm starting to have trouble seeing, right? So with my vision not being as good, that extra 0.6 inches does make a difference.
It makes a difference, right?
It does make a difference. So yeah, I think it's a really cool product. And yeah, the jokes are in the chat already with that. But I think that the thing that I've really found is I kind of like this stuff because I still have my Switch 2. I actually have 3 of them in my house right now. The other 2 are gifts. One's for me, one's mine that I've had for day one, but I bought 2 because it sounds like from what everyone is saying is that there could be a price increase in the next month or 2. So I want to get one for my nephews. I bought them a Switch 2 Christmases ago, and they're obsessed with it. It's the greatest thing ever, being an uncle and having your nephews obsessed with video games. Like, you can be that cool uncle. Oh, it's the best. So, and like even just like last Christmas, my nephew Jack was just, all he wanted to do was sit next to me and show me. It was Kirby and the Forgotten Kingdom that they got from the library. Again, you can rent games from the library. Very cool.
Yes.
But they were just like, and that's just like a great thing to be able to do. So, but yeah, that those devices, you feel like you own them because you can install Windows on these. You can install any form of Linux. Like even this Legion S Go, it comes with Windows on it, but they are the only other manufacturer that has SteamOS support. So out of the box, you can install SteamOS and you can control the RGB lights on it. You have total control over the TDP and all that stuff. So
is that what you're running on it? You're running SteamOS on your Legion
totally.
Go?
Yeah. So I mean, it basically runs just like a Steam Deck. It's nothing different.
Nice.
You boot it up. You take your phone and you log into Steam and you're playing your games. And again, the only difference is you just have more juice behind it. You just have the ability to play bigger, more demanding games at a higher frame rate. So if you don't want to have to sacrifice, like sometimes you do with a Steam Deck, and it's also a higher resolution screen. I think it's something by 1200 versus the by 800, which is the 800p versus 1200p with the Steam Deck. So you do get a much bigger upgrade with that as well. And again, it's just like nice to feel like you own the hardware. You can do whatever you want with it. You can open up the back. You can swap out the SSD in it. It actually takes a full size SSD, which is pretty cool versus those mini ones, which again, today it's really expensive to get any SSD. So it's nice to be able to do that too. So yeah, it's where I've been at, and it's where I've been playing most of my games. It's mostly been on either the PC next to me or on, and this is actually, I always thought you were crazy. You remember you had that Logitech like stream?
Yeah, the G Cloud.
The G Cloud.
I haven't played that in a little while, but I love handheld gaming again because
Right.
of the Steam Deck and the G Cloud and all of that stuff.
You're ahead of the game. When you bought that, I thought you were crazy to like that thing. I'm like, it's just like, what? I don't get it. But again, now that sometimes whether it's energy, whether it's I can bring this with me to the gym if I have a client cancellation and I
Mhm.
can just get in like 30, 45 minutes of games and then put it to sleep and
Yeah.
I have games on this. I was there launch night for Half-Life 2. I was
Mhm.
there trying to get that game to unlock like everyone else was. So on my Steam account, I have games that I bought in 2004 on it, which again, you can't really say for any other console. So again, when I look at it, it's just like
Yeah.
maybe that makes sense of where to put most of my money going down the road. But again, you can't not have the Switch 2. You got to have the Nintendo stuff when that stuff comes out.
That's right. Nintendo has their exclusives. They're never going to make anything for PC, probably. I mean, unlikely.
Never. I mean, and this is where again, where we talk about like getting the opportunity to buy games from other stores. I think that's a really cool thing where
That is
again, the one
big. Yeah.
it's big because one thing like that you don't like about digital is again, especially a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, like Sony's starting to play around with different prices based on who's looking at the store. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not that's not cool. Like, I don't want to support that stuff, right? Again, I'm trying to be like Mr. Consumer. I want to make sure I still have some rights when it comes to this stuff. So, like being able to go to something like I think it's like GG.deals or something like that, where you can look for a game, you can look at, all the different stores that have the keys on it, and you can just go to wherever it's cheapest, where like I can get Persona 5 for $10 when it's $15 on Steam. It's not a big difference, but it's enough to be able to just feel like, all right, well, at least I'm getting a good deal on this stuff. And that's what got me to what I'm playing this week, which I assume we should eventually get to real quick after
Yeah.
all that
You
spiel.
should.
Um, but basically, the main game that I'm playing right now, not new. And this is another thing. I like not playing brand new games because you can get such a good deal on this stuff.
Mhm.
For 18 bucks, I got Doom, The Dark Age. I think it's The Dark Ages, um, which I bought back during Christmas during a Steam sale because I had all that credit. And again, kind of like Donkey Kong, maybe the reason why I should go back to it. I played it for like an hour and I really bounced off it because it's extremely complicated. Like what you have
Mhm.
going on, like if you've played Doom or even Doom Eternal, which again is, if you look at Doom Eternal, like a lot of people had trouble with that game because it added a lot of more combat layers on top of it, where a lot of people love the simplicity
Mhm.
of the Doom 2016. This took it up to a whole nother level where you have, pairing mechanics, you have all these other different things that you need to kind of basically keep inventory of while you're just trying to stay alive. Where I was like, man, maybe I don't want to do this, especially in like it's big open areas and things like that. So again, another good thing about Steam, I got a refund. Like you didn't have to, it's very low hurdle.
Yeah.
I played an hour of it. It's not for me. And I was even having some troubles, running it on Linux. So I was like, man, I'm just going to return it. But then again, it pops up for 18 bucks. And I've been playing Doom Eternal on my Legion Go S with loss of scaling, which again, I'll hit on in a second. But the cool thing about this game is that probably like you were mentioning with Donkey Kong, you get past to a certain point and then it clicks.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
something magical that happens when you start. It's like cook serve delicious. You're starting to figure out where everything is and what you need to be doing and the patterns. And you just get that kind of like peripheral recognition of things that are going on. And once you get the flow, it might be the most fun I've had playing a game in the last year.
All
It's
right.
shocking how much I like this game because also I think I was really influenced by the initial reactions people had when it came out. When I saw the people saying like, "Man, it's not Doom. It's not Doom Eternal. It's just way different. It's just like you're pairing a bunch." And the reviews weren't as good as the other two games, which still got reviewed well, but I kind of was like, man, I like that. I wanted more of what I liked from those other two games. So I kind of had a little bit of a wall with it. But
Hmm.
I haven't found many other games that constantly make you feel like you're about to lose, you're about to die. And at the last second, you get a parry and you get some of your health back and you're back in the game. And you're constantly looking at these enemies, you're fighting these enemies of different levels, like all these, characters that are coming back from previous Dooms, but again, a little bit different. Some of them have extra armor and they're just like higher level versions of them. And you get into all these situations like, I'm just going to quit because there's no way I'm going to get through this scenario. There's just too many enemies. There's too many things going on. And, very often I'm in an apartment by myself. My poor dog will get startled behind me sitting on this futon because I'm not going to swear, but I'll be like, bleep you. I like got this guy. Like there's so many awesome moments in this where you just feel like you did it. Like it makes you feel really good when you get through some of these encounters. The only kind of real bad thing is about it is you can only play in like 30-minute chunks because it is exhausting. Like you get at least I get exhausted playing this game. And I think they did a good job separating the chapters. It's the other weird thing. Like I think I'm like 7 hours in. I'm like, oh man, we must be getting towards the end. Like I just got the rocket launcher. I think I have almost all the weapons now. There's 22 chapters in this. I'm at chapter 10. This game's like 18 hours long. It's huge. And it's going to take me probably a month to play through it because again, I can only do it in 30-minute chunks before I need to go do something else because it is exhausting. But that's why you got to mix it up. And that's why talk about the key sites. There's I think it was Fanatical, which this is the dark side of these key websites. You ever bought a mystery bundle of games?
I have not personally, but I've seen them available.
It's dangerous, man. It's like I don't gamble. I don't do like scratch tickets or anything like that. It was always a bad thing.
But you do mystery bundles.
Again, when it's like $5 and you're like, you're going to get three games that are guaranteed to work in your Steam Deck. And I'm like, this sounds crazy. I only have like 350 games on my Steam library. For some people, that's like nothing. I'm like, yeah, let's go get a couple games. And they get you like where in these bundles, you have a chance of getting, codes for these games that have just come out, like Death Stranding 2. There could be a code for that in this bundle. And it's $5 for these 3 games. And you buy one bundle and you're like, oh man, there's one game that was worth $5. I got Mega Man Legacy Collection in one of those bundles. Okay, I'll do a couple more, and then you get a couple more, and then you realize, man, I got Postal, whatever it was, Postal Redux, not good. Don't buy that game. Played 5 minutes, even with St. John doing the voice of Mr. Postal guy, not great. But you also get crazy games like I got Mega Man Legacy Collection. Have you played Yellow Taxi Goes Vroom?
Yes, I've played Yellow Taxi Goes Vroom. That is a lot of fun.
That game is a ton of fun. I had never heard of that game, and it was in one of those mystery bundles. I'm like,
oh, all right.
Okay, Crazy Taxi mixed with Super Mario 64. I spent like almost an hour straight just like in the zone because that game is just wacky. If you haven't played that game, and again, for $5, that was one of the 3 games of a $5 bundle. That's totally worth $5 to get that game. Totally. And again, a cool like Steam Deck game. So
definitely.
I've been playing that and going through Mega Man 3. And the last thing I'll say before we can move on, again, I played Persona 3 Reload. Again, I like to play games in like 20-hour chunks. So I'll play that. I'll come back to it in a couple months, just like I did with the Yakuza Like a Dragon games. I play in like 20-hour chunks and I go away for a couple months and I come back. I just kind of get, a little bit tired, but playing through Mega Man Legacy Collection. I haven't played through the Mega Man games since we did them for the podcast. Like again, a lot of Phil stuff in those episodes. This is one of the cool things about retro games and playing. I would have never played through those games if I did not have that podcast as a reason to play through those games. Going back and playing through Mega Man 3, which I think I'm a Mega Man 5 and 6 guy. I love 5 and 6. I think they have the 2 best soundtracks in those games. Just nobody ever played them. Better than 2, better than 3, but everyone likes 2 and 3, right? So like
strong statements. Wow. Okay.
I know. I'm trying to get some controversy so we get these numbers up, right? This is going to be on the F part of every website. Mega Man 3 sucks. No, but I'm playing through Mega Man 3 and I've probably haven't touched it in 10 years. And the crazy thing, like playing through the Castlevania games, like we talked about, the muscle memory that's still 100% locked in my fingers from playing those games. It's perfectly locked. Like you have things where there are like blocks you have to step on that shoot into spikes. Like I knew the exact pattern. I remembered all the enemy patterns to like jump and have them go under me and then shoot them, like all that stuff. And that's why those old games are great to go back to, because you feel great. And it is, you're almost
Yeah.
nostalgic for the muscle memory of that stuff. And, again, I know those collections weren't perfect when they came out. But from what I was playing on my Steam Deck or my Legion Go S, outstanding. And again, if you ever like in a rut, that's why I think those collections are so important, whether it be that, the Castlevania collections, the Disney afternoon collections, that kind of stuff. Those games, you can always go back to, you can pick up and play, and you can play them on anything. Like they're available everywhere. So yeah, that's mostly what I've been playing. But Resident Evil 9 doesn't need to be talked about more. It's really, really good. And it's probably the most impressive thing I've ever seen on a Switch 2.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. The Switch 2 version of that is great. I need to get back to it.
Oh, you haven't finished it?
No, I haven't.
Where'd you end up? Or where'd you leave off?
I'm still in the hospital.
Okay.
Still in the first little bit. So
what do you think's the hurdle for you there?
Other games coming out.
Yeah. See, I did that in a weekend. I did that in a weekend. That was one of those Linux experiences where you get a game on launch, you're almost assume it's going to run like crap.
Yeah.
That game ran perfectly on Linux, on Proton. So again, things are getting better on that stuff. If you're ever thinking about flirting with Linux and ditching Windows, for most people, as long as you want to like at least troubleshoot a little bit and just learn how to use the terminal, which is, I am so not good at that stuff, but every solution is a copy and paste away. I think now it's getting to the point where you can almost feel good getting a game on day one. Again, I bought it through Steam. If it doesn't work, you just get a refund anyways. Not a big deal.
Yeah. Which is definitely not as easy to do on Switch or PlayStation 5 to get a refund on anything. In that My Life in Gaming video that they did where he built a PC and put Bazite on it, I was like, oh, maybe I should do that instead
for not that much money.
For the Steam machine. Yeah, exactly. For not that much money, maybe I should do that. But
if you need some RAM, so RAM's still the hardest thing to get, right?
Yeah.
Because again, when there was like the RAM apocalypse was starting to come, like I'm a squirrel, right? When I see things are about to go up in price, that's when I buy that stuff. And sometimes I buy two just in case, because you never know. I do have an extra set of 32 gigs of DDR5. If you want it at what I paid for it back then, you just let me know. And at least that's one piece you don't have to worry about. But I mean, do you have a Micro Center near you?
I probably do.
You must.
Right? I have to. I'm in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, they're like they're like Richdale's. Richdale's is the East Coast thing. Maybe it's like a 7-Eleven. But if you have a Micro Center, those are so pretty, decently priced out to get a good bundle, like with a good, 7800X 3D.
I have never built a PC. Never.
Super easy. You literally can't break them these days. Like I've even ripped them apart, put them in smaller cases. Like I have a really small form factor case now too, which is kind of the most stressful. But if you have I don't think it's either a micro or a mini ATX board. It's actually pretty cool. Like Lian Li M3 is the case that I have. Look that up. It's good. It's wood grain. It doesn't look like a gross computer. There's no window on the side, so you don't have to look at the RGB crap. Like I don't like any of that stuff. It just is like a black
looking over
box.
at my gaming PC that has the window and the
that's the one thing I don't like. You know what I will do is if you need some RAM, I have RGB RAM in that right now that still lights up, and I don't care about it. I will put in some of my non-RGB RAM. I'll send you that stuff. At least that way you can get a step ahead on that. But yeah, man, tough buying RAM these days.
Yes. All right. So that's all you've been playing? Should we get on to
that's all that's worth playing. All I would say aside from that is I think next on deck is Nier Automata, which I haven't touched since I played through it originally. But again, when it's $10 on, whatever it was, Green Man Gaming, that's a game that's probably it's in my top 5 of all time. If anyone that's finished it, like really finished it, I think a lot of people feel the same. I started again playing through it on Switch, and I'm like, what am I doing? Even though I have a physical copy on Switch, just play it on your PC where you can actually like let it run at 60 frames per second. Don't be an idiot.
Right.
But yeah, playing lots of games. And again, that's the great thing about not doing podcasts. You have more time to play games.
That's a good advertisement for not doing podcasts.
I know. I will say one thing that I hadn't touched in a long time was Lumina's remaster, because I bought it on Steam years and years ago. I had it on Switch as well. Like, man, I never booted up. I went and I just booted up. I played an hour and a half straight. I had the best round of just like the endless that I had heard songs I've never heard before. And again, that's like the cool thing about those games, like puzzle games and stuff like that, is you never know when you're just gonna like get on a run and stuff like that. And that is a game. Just put on some headphones and just even
yeah.
I know, like, was that game's like 20 years old now since it came out on?
Yes.
Was it Xbox?
Yeah, it came out in 2004 on PSP.
So that is based off of the PSP. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, Luminous Remastered is based on the PSP game, but it also has a couple additions
of like the
Luminous
Xbox
2.
Live stuff, right? Oh,
yeah.
From Luminous 2. Okay.
From Luminous 2, a couple modes and things. Yeah, it's a great game.
Great game.
I've gone back to it too ever since working on Luminous Arise. So I've gotten a lot better at Luminous, having worked on Arise.
So that's the game again. Like, it's like Picross. I don't know how to be good at it. You're just moving stuff around and you're just hoping for the best. You're just hoping for a bomb to drop so you can clear out some blocks. And I just want to hear the next song, because again, like, even though that soundtrack is 20 years old, like the music in that is hot. Like, it's really
still great.
It's still really, really good. Like, whoever's job it was to pick out those tracks back in the day. I don't know. Was it just Mizuguchi picking all those tracks? Just so,
yeah, of course.
Oh my God. what friggin' palette, man. What a palette.
For real. All right, let's do some social media posts. You ready?
Absolutely.
Let's do this one from listener Brian, who says, I'm going to need some locks. Will GTA 6 come out this year, and how much will it sell? And when does the PS6 come out?
So this is funny. So the Larrabee lock thing, that was the one thing people always ask, like, did you actually talk to people in the industry? Did you know stuff and you said stuff? Half it was kind of like reading tea leaves and stuff like that, right? Sometimes it was just someone said like, yeah, I don't really care if you mention this, like, you can say something about it, or I guess like putting pieces together. But one thing, again, that client that's into games, 2 weeks before the PlayStation price went up, I told them about it, because again, like, there's things float around and stuff like that still. And it's just like, hey, dude, you want a PS5? You better get it now. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, God, dude, how did you know that? And sometimes you just got to put the pieces together. Sometimes you hear things and stuff like that. But the Grand Theft Auto is really weird. The thing that I would say about Grand Theft Auto is, I don't know if it hits this year still. I wouldn't be shocked if you see another bump going into next year.
I wouldn't be shocked either.
Because again, there's so many different moving pieces with that. And I think one of the big things that they're probably going to be watching out for is making sure there is at least a decent online component ready, because you heard those numbers leak out about how much money Grand Theft Auto makes online, GTA Online makes every day, $1 million a day. They're going to want to make sure that they have, at least something that you can get some microtransactions going for that, buy some GTA bucks or whatever it's called. I can't wait to see that game, but I'm just, I don't know, man. That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of moving parts with AAA game development. Games are taking longer and longer to make these days, and also they don't want a situation like Cyberpunk 2077 when that came out. I mean,
totally,
it's going to be a holiday quarter. Take-Two, Rockstar, it's a publicly traded company. They're going to want to do as well as possible. And if that means bumping it to 2027, it might actually be worth it, because, you don't want to diminish the Grand Theft Auto brand. Also, like, that's going to have knock-on effects to your other things. So they're going to want this to release in as good a state as possible. So
yeah, I know. Again, it's like one of those things where they don't care if it comes out for the holidays. When it comes out, it will be the number one, gross ever for a single day for a video game.
Yeah.
And again, this is when it's coming out just on, Xbox Series, whatever, and PlayStation 5. Again, unless I would love for them to say like, hey, we're going to wait like another 6 months and have it come out on PC at the same time too, but they'll never do that because they're going to get you to buy it twice.
Exactly.
That's why, that's literally, I have a PS5 Pro that's not even hooked up right now that, I should be selling for bars of gold based on what they're going for.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I'm holding on to it for, again, in the case where me and my buddy want to play Call of Duty again, we can play that on only on PS5 Pro. And again, I'm holding on to it for Grand Theft Auto. That's the only reason why I have it, really.
Nice. I'm sure Sony appreciates that.
Well, hey, it's one of those things where that's the other thing. The only bummer with the, all the Sony stuff and the PC is, again, like I'm kind of out on Sony right now because again, they're, we always go back for, when Sony's the underdog, they're doing all these cool things here. This is how we share games and stuff like that. And now, again, they are in the power position. Microsoft, you're seeing Microsoft's doing all this friendly stuff right now because they're in the bottom position. And right now, I think Sony is just kind of bumming me out where they're doing stuff that's not super great. And it's their prerogative where I played through maybe 2 months ago on my PS5 Pro when I had gold. I was playing through what is Ghost of Yote? No, Ghost of Tsushima. Incredible game.
It is a great game.
Incredible, beautiful looking game. I wish it ended after the first, when I saved my dad, not my dad, my mentor or whatever. That's where I like kind of had enough of those, like 15 hours in for me. I like kind of scratched my itch. But then like I really would love to play Ghost of Yote. But again, when Sony kind of said, you know what, we're just going to be holding on to these games just for the PC, I think that's always kind of a bummer because it kind of, when you start giving people that expectation, like I bought Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales on PC. Now I know I'm not going to be able to play the next Spider-Man game. Like it just kind of stinks when you can't have all those games in, one spot for you. But again,
that's true.
It's their prerogative.
Yep. Let's do this one from Hackerilius Great Big Man, who says, please tell Kevin we miss him and back in my play. Oh. Has he enjoyed the Digital Eclipse style docu games trend? Any series or gaming topic he'd love to get that treatment? And can we get one more conversation with Mike Micah?
Again, anything that people are doing to get these people together. Digital Eclipse is doing great stuff. Again, I think what Mike Micah is doing, again, when it comes to the doc, like one of the things, again, it's on my, I'm really kicking myself because MinMax had like a thing where if you sign up for their Patreon this week, you got a free copy of Mortal Kombat
collection.
Yeah. I'm really bummed I didn't jump in on that because again, that's one of those things where they did such incredible work with that collection and especially with the documentary content. I think anytime they're making sure people have these games available to play on current hardware, it's an awesome thing. Even just if they want to go in depth with doing the video documentary and stuff, all for that. Like the Atari 50 stuff and what they did with Mortal Kombat is like the gold standard. And again, anytime John can get these old developers on for interviews and stuff like that, I think is really incredible. So with DF and Digital Eclipse and, even Limited Run doing good stuff, getting stuff out there. I know they have their troubles as well. But I think it's at least good that if we're going to want this stuff, you got to make sure you vote with your dollars too. Just going to make sure you buy this stuff. So they have a reason to show it to the next company. Hey, look at what we did with Mortal Kombat. Wouldn't it be great if we did it with Clay Fighter? I'm just kidding. Don't do it.
Is that you want a Clay Fighter collection?
I always got to bring up Clay Fighter. I think that's a back in my play. Clay Fighter is always going to have scars in my childhood. When we wanted Street Fighter 2, we went to Lechmere and we went home with Clay Fighter. Jesus.
Yes. Is there any sort of retro game that you would want to see given that Digital Eclipse docu treatment?
That's a great. Well, again, obviously there's Nintendo stuff. I think Nintendo just has such a great library, and I think even with their, their online service, what they have, thank God Thank God it took them to the Switch too, so you can customize the control. So I can at least, what is it? I want to, the way I have to run and then jump with Mario, they always had only could use B and A. You couldn't use Y in B,
Uh-huh.
which is the way I wanted to. I couldn't play all these old games, and thankfully Nintendo's doing a better job with that stuff. I think they obviously have a great library. Like, why can't I
Yeah.
play Wind Waker right now? Not the
Oh,
GameCube
I
version that
know.
has a bunch of lag in your bad emulator for GameCube. God, like again, it's just it is that whole monkey's paw situation where like, oh my God, Wind Waker on the Switch 2 on day one. Oh my God, this horrible input lag. Like, how do you guys are the people that these are your games, right? Come on, at least get that part right. But yeah, like
Yeah.
I wish you could at least like from a Nintendo standpoint, I wish they would re-release their stuff more often and not just like they're not great, but the Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 collection, good enough. At least it's
Yeah.
there. At least you can
Yeah.
play it. And it's not like, messed up. But I think it's just tough because a lot of these old companies, like you think about how many great Sunsoft games there are. Like there's so much room for a really good Sunsoft collection. Obviously, SNK keeps pumping stuff out, and again, there's weird stuff with that now.
Yeah.
Sega always does a pretty good job of regurgitating their stuff for better or worse. I still think one of my favorite collections is that Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection. I really love that when they put that out, if they literally just took that and put it back out and made it available on current gen and PC and stuff like that, I think that would be great. But
Mm.
really, I think for the big games, they've done a good job. The fact that you can play Windjammers now, I think is really cool. Like if you can go that deep and get games that people didn't even know who owned the rights for that stuff, again, if you can show these people that own the IPs, these publishers, that there is a market for it. I think it is possible. That's why I still buy all this stuff, even if I don't play them a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. There sure is a market for that stuff.
What do you
And
want? Like, what do you think's missing out there?
there's not much really. Like I think I'd like to see a console wars style collection from Digital Eclipse that was Genesis stuff with the documentary
Ooh,
footage as well. That'd be really cool.
yes.
See something like that. Maybe Sega CD stuff, because a lot of that Sega CD stuff is sort of lost to time because on NSO and on most Genesis collections you get plenty of Genesis games but not Sega CDs so much, so I'd love to see that. Maybe like a working designs collection would be cool with
Wow.
their
Yeah.
Sega CD and Saturn stuff would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, Saturn, talk about a treasure trove of stuff on there. But again,
Yeah,
like, the emulation is just
right.
really so still hard to do Sega Saturn stuff. Um, I, that's a it's really tough because again, you want this stuff, but you want it done right, and you just always worry that they're just gonna package this stuff together. It's like when you got Super Mario All Stars on a disc on the Wii,
Yeah,
that's you don't want to pay $50 for Super Mario All Stars.
I'd pay $50 for Super Mario All
Oh, I
Stars
know you would.
still, even now.
Is that not on the Super? It is on the Super Nintendo channel on the Switch
Yeah,
too, right?
it
Okay,
is. Yeah, yeah.
all right.
And I played it on there.
It's still really, really
Sure.
good. Um,
Yeah.
but man, like
Well,
I'd
yeah,
like they would expand on that stuff more.
I think I told you this, or you may have heard it. In 2022, the storage facility where I was keeping all of my physical games got
Oh my God, yeah.
burgled. So
You
now I
got
don't
Mark
have any
McDonald.
of those.
Yeah,
I got Mark
that.
McDonald. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, his was he forgot to he didn't forget to pay the bill. He did not get the bill because he moved
Yeah.
to Japan. That was really a sad story. I mean, that's the worst, man.
Mm,
Again, I fell
yeah.
for you so bad. Like, again, that's one of the reasons why I kind of like stress out about owning a lot of physical stuff. And like the only stuff I do is stuff that I know I can back up.
Yeah.
Like because you
I've
just never know.
I've never been more glad that I went all digital in 2013 because at least I
You
had
were
my
right.
more recent games
Yeah.
still.
I mean, you were again, this is the
Yeah.
stuff we talked about back in the day of how like you couldn't paint, or like I would only get stuff digitally on Nintendo consoles if it was like free, like again, like between the Wii to the Wii U, like that, none of that stuff carried over. But at least now with the Switch, it seems that we at least have a standard with that stuff where you can feel
Yeah.
pretty confident about buying that stuff, and you haven't had any real bad like horror stories. Again, the only thing
Yeah.
that you're just trading convenience for not being able to resell it, but sometimes it's a good balance to have. The convenience is really, really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's do this one from Hacker Alias Co Andy, who says, "What's your preferred way to play retro games? Emulation, original consoles, and if you go emulation, then what controller do you use?"
Oh, that's a good question. So for the most part, I don't use old hardware. I have no old hardware anymore. I have zero.
Really? Wait,
Um,
what? Kevin Larrabee,
I
host
know.
of Back in My Play,
Sold all that
has
stuff.
no original hardware?
No, I'm very much like I believe man, my dream is to live in a tiny home. Like I want 500 square feet and I don't want anything in it. Like
All right.
I have definitely, again, one of the fun things about retro gaming and what I did with all that stuff is to chase.
Mm,
It's taking these trips to Japan and going to these stores that are not in Tokyo. I'm going like 50 miles out of Tokyo and I'm getting these games, like these games that are $50 in Tokyo for 14 bucks or something like that. Finding all these hidden treasures and finding
yeah.
these games that I've never heard about and then playing. And now, again, obviously I don't want to do anything that's not legal. So that's why I have a Nintendo Switch too. I like playing games enough on those services. I wish, again, the big bummer is GameCube on there,
Mm.
where again GameCube is a big hole in my gaming history. Where the only stuff I really ever played on GameCube was Wind Waker. Really, it's the only
Oh
thing I ever
man.
really played through. There's a lot of great games on there. I mean,
It's
Luigi's
true.
Mansion I played when they remade it for like 3DS and stuff,
Mm.
or Switch. But for me right now, it's convenience above all else. That's why I'm more than happy to pay for these services, pay for these collections. I do still have some mini consoles, so I still have the NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, and I believe it's the PC Engine because I sold
Yeah.
the TurboGrafx Mini was like selling for $400 during COVID, so I sold that because the PC Engine versions, it's the exact same games, right?
Mm.
So I still have that stuff, and I was really interested in getting one of those Aeon Thors before the prices shot up like a couple weeks ago, because again,
Right.
that's like the thing I really miss is like I sold my 3DS, I still have a DS and some games for that. But the thing I really miss of the game I want to play the most right now, and I would love to have Nintendo help fix this by either re-releasing it or doing an HD version, is A Link Between Worlds. Again, talk about like a
Yes.
top 10 game for me, and a game that I own the
Hell yeah.
2 disc soundtrack for. I'm really jonesing to play that game right now. And again, it's one of those things where even if you wanted to get a 3DS, you know how much a 3DS is right now? Like if you want a 3DS XL, they're like $300. I'm not spending $300 on, 15-year-old hardware, right? Again,
Yeah.
especially something that has games that are even more expensive. Like the games are getting so expensive. So again, you're either looking at going on like AliExpress and getting a modded 3DS, or you're going to have to spend a lot of money, and it's just not worth like $400 for me to play that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, what people need to do is just remember, again, there's one end, there's like, again, like the John Linneman. So I again, it's super fascinating. I love him. He's got CRTs. He's got super fast CRTs. He just posted a picture of this crazy like switcher that he has for all of his retro consoles. I think that's awesome. I don't want to do that anymore. I just like the
Mm.
simplicity, and again, even if it's not perfect, I just want to make sure that I can play the games that I want to play. And there are things like emulation station you can put on your Steam Deck and stuff like that. And I will say archive.org is really helpful if you're like, you know what I'd like to play? You know what, a game you're talking about, what's a compilation? Why can't I play Symphony of the Night on my
Mm.
PC? That's the one game that's still stuck on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 1 and on the PS4 and PS5. I think they did re-release it on that, right? With I even
Believe
own it with
so.
Rondo of Blood. I know, yeah, with Rondo Blood. But again, that's a game where, man, why is that game not available on Steam somewhere? They got every other Konami game ever released, but Symphony
Hmm.
of the Night. So that's a game that I'd like to play.
I see.
What do you do? Are you still? You don't have any old hardware, right? I mean, like you're not.
I don't have any old hardware. No,
You're not like
all
I
of it
need
got
a.
taken. So-
No, but I mean, like, sorry, I don't even mean that. I mean, like, you haven't gotten these like new, N64s with like
No,
HDMI output and stuff like that. Like,
I have no reason to anymore because I
right,
don't have the cartridges, and I have no interest in buying
so expensive.
buying back my collection or whatever. Like no interest. So
Yeah,
I'm mainly using emulation for that stuff if there's something I want to play, or it's NSO and the different compilations that Konami and Digital
it.
Eclipse have put out.
You know what's really helped is again talk about 8-bit though.
Hmm.
They have great controllers for like the Switch, and specifically again the hardest thing at the time was the last 20 years is finding good N64 controllers.
Yeah.
Their 8-bit N64 controller
Hmm.
is awesome. And again, it maps obviously perfectly. It's built for the Switch and the Switch 2. It's fantastic. So again, I played through a
Yeah.
bunch of Ocarina of Time maybe 2 or 3 months ago, just because again, it was around the holidays. Every Christmas, I like at least kick the tires on that, just because again, it's such a holiday game, and it's
Hell
it
yeah, it
just puts you
is.
in a comfortable mode and stuff like that. And then those rumors started coming out about Ocarina of Time being remade and stuff like that. So I'm like,
Hmm.
shut this down. I want to save this for when that potentially comes out. Because again, it's better when you have the more time between those playthroughs, the more
Yeah.
magical it is.
Let me ask you this. So there is that rumor that Ocarina of Time is being remade. What do you, Kevin Larrabee, host of Back in My Play, want to see out of an Ocarina of Time remake from scratch? What would be make you the most happy?
Well, it's so this is tough. Part of me says I don't really want it
Hmm.
because I don't think it really, unless they're going to really expand that world. Again, going back and playing it during the holidays, it's such a simple game now.
Hmm.
It's great, but again, you get to Hyrule Field. You're just walking around. It's just like sometimes you're just holding the stick and you open up your phone because you're just like walking to Lon Lon Ranch or something like that. And there's nothing going on in there. There's nothing going on in the field. Again, until you get, the horse, like there's Aponia, like there's not going to be the traversal's kind of tough. The action's still really good. I mean, obviously there's little things they could do to clean it up. The graphics can be significantly improved. They can do the stuff that they did with the water level in the 3DS version. But to be honest, what I would much rather have right now is the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD games. I
Yeah.
really want to, I'm really jonesing to play those too, like Twilight Princess. And again, this is the stuff when I was playing through Persona 3, you have to do some grinding and stuff like that. So when I do that, I go through old podcasts I don't have to listen to. So back in like on my NAS, I have all these archives of old video game podcasts. Like I have like, Retronauts, I have a bunch of your stuff, I have a bunch of Giant Bomb because specifically because one of the benefits of buying games when they're not brand new, you can buy them cheaper. But also, when I'm playing through those games, I like to go back to old podcasts and listen to
Hmm.
what people were saying when they came out because when those games come out, very often, and this is a great thing about having chapters now in podcasts, I skip over games that I know I'm going to play at some point because I don't want to really hear anything about it because I know and those podcasts will be there when I go and play them. I can go back and listen to them. But when I was going and playing through Persona 3, again, I was listening to old One Up Yours episodes because, again, that's like a time and place where I was in college, right? Like it brings you back to a time and place, and it's something I can listen to, and I still get a blast listening to those dudes bicker. But like,
Oh yeah.
I know people like don't like console wars. I thought the console war of PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 was some of the most fun, awesome, ridiculous, stupid conversations ever. Like the debates we had online. Again, the ability to go back and look at those conversations is magical because you're just like, how
Hmm.
dumb were we to argue about this stuff? How bad was it to us be saying, HD DVD, like you got to keep in mind the DVD consortium is so much more powerful than what Sony can bring. Like, you know what HD DVD can do? And it's so much cheaper and it's out now. Like the fact that we're having that stupid debate back then, but when I was going through that, like it was during the Wii launch, because I loved that time period, that year window right there between the Xbox 360 coming out, having its first year where they're like cool games like Dead Rising, Oblivion, like all these games that were coming out that were like the next gen. And then you had Sony making all these stupid mistakes, the price, what they were saying, the demos at E3, Gran Turismo HD, all this stuff. Then the launch of that, what Nintendo had with the Wii, especially with Twilight Princess at launch, along with just Wii Sports blowing up, where a year later you still couldn't go into a store and get a Wii.
Right.
That was like super fascinating. But what it got me to playing, like thinking about it, is like at that time those guys were playing through Twilight Princess. It's like, man, I really need to play through Twilight Princess right now, and there's no way for me to do it. Like unless you go get a Wii U, and I'm not gonna buy a Wii U because even those have problems. Those are starting to break now, unless you pop
Mhm.
open your Wii U to fix them. So, what I would like ideally is to, I don't know how we got to this point, but I want to play those two games. I want Wind Waker HD with the fixed sail, with the better ending where you don't have to do the Triforce crap at the end, because I'm not going to do it. And I
Right.
want Twilight Princess HD with a sped up beginning, because that's the worst part of that game, is the first like 5 hours or
It's
first three
true.
hours.
It's true.
And yeah, that's
Mm.
where I'm at. So yeah, go listen to a podcast. It can be really fun if you need to grind in a RPG and you don't want to really pay attention to what you're listening to. And it's just
Yeah.
crazy. Like you guys have a time machine with the Player One podcast. The fact that you can go back and listen to episode 40 and just be like, where were you at that time? What games were you playing? What
Right.
person were you? That's the joy for me listening to those old episodes, is being like, man, like, yeah, it brings me back to waiting outside in front of a GameStop on Black Friday to get a Wii U. Like that is stuff that you can look back on now and be like, that was really cool, even though at the time it was pretty ridiculous. So
That's true.
go, and it's cool to have those time capsules, and just to see how much the industry and has changed in a lot of ways, how it hasn't.
Definitely. Definitely. All right, let's do this one from listener Joe, who says, "What is the biggest Larrabee lock for the next generation of consoles?"
I don't even know. So this next generation of consoles, the thing is that it is great. I think we're going to have a really good fight again. The stuff that's going on with Microsoft is really weird. Obviously, they're in a state of flux. They have contradicting things going on right now, saying like, is it going to be open to other game stores? No, we're close. It looks like, from what I saw, I don't know how you feel, but it seems like Microsoft is locking things back down. It looks like they're going to
It
make
does
sure
seem
that their
that way.
console has exclusives, like have a reason to buy it, right? Where
Yeah.
the reason why nobody is going to buy an Xbox now is, why would you? Indiana Jones is coming out on PlayStation. All these games are coming out on PC on day one. Like Forza Horizon, like their number one selling game. Like, what are they saying? It sold 5 million copies on PlayStation 5.
Yep.
That's bonkers. Like if they can really justify going and making that not exclusive anymore, they must be able to put a really good package together. So the only thing that I can predict right now is, I think we're getting ready for another really good fight. And I know people are worried about prices and things like that, but if you can get these two companies, and again, Nintendo's just not, they're not competing with these guys, right? It's just these
Right.
two guys. If you can get them to a point where you can make sure that is a good enough fight again for you, the gamer, for the consumer, because that's the other thing. Again, you go back and, I'm listening to these old One Up Yours podcasts, and like people that listen to that show back in the day, if you remember, like Shane Bettenhausen was like really into PlayStation 5. He was really rooting for that console. He saw the potential in it. And the other three guys on the show are just like, dude, what are you saying? Like, this makes no sense. But at the end of the day, it's like, or everyone on the show at the end of the day is like, we don't want Xbox to win. We don't want PlayStation to win. We want there to be a good fight, because if there's a good fight at the end of the day, the consumer is going to at least come out on top. There's going to be good price competition. There's going to be good value when it comes to the services that they provide. And you can look at both of them at the end of the day and say, hey, this is not the console for me. I'm going to go this way. Or I think what's happened the most over the last couple of years is a lot of gamers have just realized maybe it's the PC, because at the PC, nobody's fighting. At the PC, all you're doing is you're going to different websites to buy keys. You're going to be playing stuff on Steam, but you can just get everything on good old games. They're even getting new stuff, and you can know that you're going to have those games forever. No matter, like, you can back up your good old game installs on your NAS. You never need to log into the internet ever again to play those stuff. So you have choice on that. Where if you want simplicity, you're going to have those two options, and then again, as much as I still have problems with Nintendo and the Nintendo Switch 2, I think, again, they're a great developer with always terrible hardware or making bad choices on the hardware. The hardware's not terrible on the Switch 2. It's just like one of those things where, man, how could they not do this? How could they not do this? It's just one of those things where you just want to make sure there's a competition. You have good choice. That's the only lock I have right now. I don't have any friends at Microsoft right now.
Yeah.
They all left.
It'll be interesting to see if there is that battle, right? And
you hope so.
You do hope so, and whether it's going to be, maybe it's going to be Sony versus Valve next round, and who knows? Like, maybe Microsoft is going to be able to claw back their exclusives. I think that's going to be extremely difficult to do for them. I'm not sure.
Like, look at the course correction. Obviously, you remember the Xbox One came out, how they went so far in this direction, and then right before launch, they had to turn the ship around and go in a completely different direction, and how much damage that caused.
Yeah.
Again, it's just I don't understand. I still don't understand why they're. I think what they originally had plans for, which was going to be like, we're going to give you a PC and you can put Xbox OS on it. You can put whatever you want on it. I know that doesn't really make sense because you got to make some money. You're probably going to have to sell that hardware at a loss. That sounded way more appealing to me. But again, all I want is to make sure that you don't have any of these companies get too far into a lead. Otherwise, your games are going to be $80, $90. PlayStation Plus is going to be $200 a year. It's already getting there.
Right.
And you're going to be nickeled and dimed until you just don't even want to play games anymore. But I think really the most important thing to remember is don't ever feel like you need to get the new stuff. We all have such big catalogs now, and you have what you and I realize, and a lot of people I'm sure listening to this realize, is you have more money than time now. So just make sure that, again, I got Persona 3 2 years after it came out for $20. I wanted to play that game, but waiting 2 years made it better because it was much longer between me playing that and Persona 3 Portable, and I'm having a lot more fun that way. So just don't get caught up in that stuff, and I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, I think games now, since there is backwards compatibility and there is a drive to make older games available on newer hardware, especially Steam OS and PC handhelds and whatnot, like, it's easier than ever to just like not even worry about new games and
100%,
go through your back catalog instead, or enjoy games that came out years ago now, like things that you never played back in the day. Like, it's much, much easier and accessible to check that stuff out.
Yeah, and I think part of that is the hardware can be what makes you enjoy those games too. Like, that's why I think even the retro portables is getting people to go back and play their old library. They want to, even if you own the physical game still, these games run better and you can do cool things to mod them. Like if you want to play your old 3DS games, PSP, PS Vita games, things like that. And I think that's what's gotten me to play more games in the last year or two is I'm more excited because of the hardware that I'm using. Like, I feel just you're more excited because even with this Legion Go S thing that I got, that was a big reason for me to buy that. Is I knew if I bought that, it would get me to play more games because it had a bigger screen. It does all those ergonomic things that are a little bit better. And I think that's something you also get to consider with whatever hardware you get. And also, the barriers are breaking down now, right? Where I talk about it's really hard to play stuff on Linux with my buddy who's a PS5 gamer. He's never going to buy a PC. He's a PS5 gamer, but he's my best friend. And this is how we talk whenever we get in touch. It's when we're playing a game. But you're seeing things like we played through 40 hours of Arc Raiders. Like, we got really into that, and that you can play on Linux and play on a PlayStation 5. Helldivers 2. The barriers are starting to break down a little bit. The last thing is really just the anti-cheat stuff for first-person shooters.
Yeah, for sure. Let's wrap up with this one from our good friend John Riccardi, who says, what was the best episode of Back in My Play ever recorded, and why was it the Zelda 2 episode?
Yeah, and again, this is it. I will say the Zelda 2 episode is the most downloaded episode ever for Back in My Play.
Oh, all right.
It
Nice.
is. It is. Again, again, like that's the thing with Libsyn. You can literally just look at the stats for God, I think I've had that account for 11 years now. So, or it's got to be more than that, right? So
Yeah.
there is no best episode of Back in My Play. There's a most downloaded episode, but I think a big part of it is every episode was kind of the best because the secret about that show, why it works, it's why this show works, it's why John's show works, it's why 8-4 Play works, is I don't think people really necessarily always care about the conversations. It's not like, oh my God, I can't wait to hear what they're going to say about this thing this week. It's just because you get that same feeling of like you're hanging out with a bunch of friends.
Mhm.
I would have never talked to you in my life if it were not for that podcast. We talk about the Wii U. I would have never gotten on a plane with a Wii U the day after launch and brought it to Tokyo for John Riccardi if it wasn't for that podcast. That is literally why I've been able to make connections with you guys, with Mike Michael. I just had a blast talking with him. Like I got to be on a panel at PAX because of that podcast with Rich. I think it was Rich's sports game podcast with, I got to meet Garnett Lee through that. That was, again, a weird thing to be able to do. We hung out when you were in Boston for all that stuff. Like that is some of the stuff that I really, when I look back to, it's really hard for me to go back and listen to those shows because it makes me really miss it. It's really hard. There are some, I would still say again, like there's Google alerts where I still get people talking about that show. I still get emails. I don't know how they email me through the gym because my old Back in My Play email doesn't even exist anymore. Like I stopped paying for the hosting for the website. I pay to host the podcast. People still are finding that show and they still at least get what I was hoping they would get out of it, which is a bunch of people hanging out, having a good time, not being pessimistic or negative, but only talking about the joys. And again, that's the thing I think John's doing really well with the DF Retro show is they're going back. We're not just talking about the PlayStation 2 launch. These are the games that were launching. He's like, what was it like for you at that PlayStation 2 launch? What was it like for you working at EB Games during the launch of the PlayStation 2? That's the stuff I love the most. And I think that's why the show worked so well. It's, even when we did that Zelda 2 episode is weirdly, it's one of my least favorite because of how tired I was during it, because we recorded it at like, I think midnight or 1 a.m. my time because they were in Tokyo. The only reason we did it is because Shane was visiting those guys in Tokyo and they're like, oh yeah, let's do it at like 11 a.m. which is like 1 a.m. my time or at midnight my time. So I'm so tired during that show where I felt like I didn't really speak very clearly, but those guys carried that episode. They obviously really love Zelda 2. And I just look back at stuff like, again, the people I met, being able to talk to people that I felt like weren't getting their voices out. Like, again, if you want to know about anything Konami, Hardcore Gaming 101, Kurt Kalata is the guy that you should be talking to. You want to know about Castlevania stuff? Go talk to Kurt. Peter Brown, when he was working at GameSpot, who's now at Sony, like he had such a huge passion for that there. And the only thing I can say about Peter Brown is I thank him so much for me not getting the job at GameSpot. I interviewed at GameSpot and got through like the second round of interviews when I was in between. I left my old gym and I was thinking about opening up this gym. And I was like, hey, it's like, maybe you should work at GameSpot. We got an opening. Thank you, Peter, for whatever did not work out and them not hiring me, because that would have been the worst path to take in life. Not because it's a bad job, but just like, obviously that industry is not doing very well.
True.
Unfortunately.
But you never know where that could have led, right? Like
where
Peter Brown at PlayStation now. So.
And it's cool. How cool is it to see him pop up in that like Sony Direct?
Yeah.
Look at him taking his passion for retro games and bringing it into that Metal Gear collection, like that Metal Gear Solid Volume 2. Like that's what Peter should be doing, and I'm so happy like he's doing that stuff. And whether it was talking to Blake Harris during the console war stuff when that stuff was coming out, like getting a chance to just talk with you guys, meet you guys in the Ryan Paytons, the Mike Micahs. Like I know I'm forgetting people out there as well. Getting to talk to John. I always think of Johnny Metz making me play the worst Nintendo game of all time. Was it Mile on Secret Castle? That's the worst episode of Back in My Play. We did that episode of Back in My Play. That's the worst episode. you want to hear me not be happy for an hour? Listen to that. That's the one episode where I'm just like, I mean, Johnny's a good dude. He's like a really brilliant guy. And he's like, he builds rockets, right? And the fact, again, that's what's weird about this stuff is sometimes you grow up with a game. It's this game that just kind of like is locked into your memory and you just have this nostalgia for it, whether it's good or not.
Totally.
That's where that came in. But again, there's no favorite episode. But again, if you want to find the podcast on the podcast feeds, it's somehow still out there. I don't manage it. I haven't touched it in forever. But I do have all the episodes backed up. So worst case scenario, if you can't find it on your podcast feed, I'll probably try to get it up on archive.org. In the next 10 years, I'll get it up there because those are timeless and you should listen to those old episodes if you're looking to kill some time.
There you go. All right, let's wrap it up. All righty, and that is our show for this week. Thank you very much for listening. If you have a question for us or would like to comment on something you heard, you can direct that to @P1 Podcast on your blue skies, or you can go to our internet website at player1podcast.com. There you will find show notes and links to all the things that we talked about during this episode, and a link to our Discord server is there as well. If you'd like to subscribe to the Player One Podcast, you can do that via whatever podcatcher you like to use. Or we're also on YouTube, youtube.com/P1 Podcast, or Twitch, Facebook. We're on all the things, and we even stream these episodes live as we record them. Stay tuned to our social media account on Blue Sky to find out when we're doing our next live show. Typically, that is 5:30 Pacific time on Sundays, although not this week because Greg and are not here. So I can choose to schedule whenever I want to. And if you want to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/P1 Podcast. If you throw a few shekels our way, like the $5 amount, then you can get the after show that we do every week. We record that right after this, where we crack wise and play games and do all the things we can't do on the regular show. This week, it is going to be an EGM review quiz based on the games that Back in My Play covered during its 132 episode run. So let's see how
that sounds awesome. That's a great idea.
What Kevin's memory is like in terms of the games that he covered on Back in My Play. We shall see. And of course, you can also support Greg Stewart's Patreon at patreon.com/Greg Stewart. And he's doing all kinds of cool stuff with Generation 16 and occasional videos. And if you're a subscriber of the $3 tier, you can get extra special videos from him, as well as early access to the videos he releases on YouTube. I think that is it. So I will say thank you very much, Kevin Larrabee, for joining me this week. Where can people get in touch with you if they would like to?
They really can't. They can. I think so. I think I'm going to keep this Blue Sky thing active for now. I'll keep the app on my phone. But I think it's just at Kevin Larrabee. The Blue Sky thing's a little bit weird, but look for at Kevin Larrabee, or if you follow the P1 Podcast feed, you can always find my tag on there. But yeah, man, I want to thank you so much for having me back on. This has been a lot of fun. This has made my weekend. And again, I'm always been grateful for you and the guys for supporting Back in My Play for all those years. Again, I think you guys, I think you were the first person that I had on the show that wasn't like our original rotating cast on there, and then eventually Greg, and then eventually Phil. And, and again, all I can say is it's been a blast. If you guys ever need a fill in and it's not recording at like 9 p.m. at night, you let me know, because
Okay.
again, we can always do an early afternoon, and I think I could rope in some of those names I mentioned, rope in a couple of those guys. We get like a third chair in here too, because I mean, who wants to spend anything on a nice, beautiful Sunday except hang out online and talk about video games? It's the best
Exactly.
thing to
Stay
do.
indoors and talk video games or play video games. Yeah. I mean, who needs the
That's what
outdoors?
I'm talking about.
Yes. Well, thank you again, Kevin, for joining us. If anyone listening to this has not heard Back in My Play, go back and check out those episodes. And of course, if you're in need of personal training, check out Allied Strength
No, don't. I have a
as well.
waiting list. The gym is so full and so busy. Don't even, if you're in
Oh,
the area,
okay.
it's a
Then
long wait
don't.
list. So unfortunately, I'm too successful with that. So I
Too
just need more time.
successful.
Yeah, man. It's just it's a blessing and a curse, as they say. But yeah, wish I had more time.
That's excellent. Well, thank you again for joining us. And everybody, I hope you are all doing well. Hope your family, friends, loved ones are safe and well. And we'll talk at you again next week. Bye bye.